Namaste, I'm Anokhi Parekh from Mumbai, India, and I'm your proud host for day 2 of the second World Youth Conference on Kindness.
عشق را درون خود یابه نوید تازه را از سر جهانی سازه کینه را از قلب خود رانه مهربان باشیم با هم از دل بخندیم هر دم شادمان باشیم با هم زندگی کنیم در ورزید دل را به کام هم دیگر بستید عشق و محبت سرمایه ماست در راه خدمت باشید همانگاه It's time, let's do this, it's our time Let's do this, it's time to shine a light Let's do this, it's time to shine your light. Whoa, whoa, بیا که تا چراغ محبت برافرازیم زندگی را با هم آسان بسازیم It's time, let's do this, it's our time Let's do this, it's time to shine a light It is time to shine a light
You just saw the amazing song Shine Your Light by Ricky Cage from India, Grammy Award winner and UNESCO MGIEP's Kindness Ambassador, along with 24 wonderfully talented youth refugees discovered by UNHCR India, highlighting the plight of refugees and migrants and the critical need to be kind to the other. Yesterday, we celebrated the 75th anniversary of the United Nations and we heard an electrifying keynote from Natasha Mavansa from Zambia, as well as an insightful panel on the youth and the future of the UN multilateral system. And we also saw the launch of the Compassionate Integrity Training on the UNESCO MGIEP Framer Space platform. Today, our theme is Youth and Kindness for the SDGs, and we have an exciting lineup. A keynote address from a fearless young woman from Pakistan who's using her world ranking in squash to bring to attention gender equality and women's rights. A panel of youth champions in kindness in a dialogue with a UNESCO ambassador and award-winning filmmaker moderated by the director of UNESCO MGIEP. Also, keep your eyes out for amazing music from South Africa, Colombia, New Zealand, United Kingdom and Argentina throughout the conference, and the Kindness Concert at the end of the day organized by Lorraine Zander, CEO of Phase Media Canada, official media partner for the conference. And of course, we're all here for the adoption of the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness, a powerful document written by hundreds of youth from all over the world. To open today's proceedings, I would like to invite Dr. J.S. Rajput, Chair of the UNESCO MGIEP Governing Board and representative of India to the UNESCO Executive Board for opening remarks. Dr. J.S. Rajput is a giant in the Indian education system, widely known for his contributions to considerable reforms in school education and teacher training. Dr. Rajput served as the director of NCERT from 1999 to 2004 and has received the highest civilian award, the Padma Shri, in 2015. I invite you to the conference. It's over to you, Dr. Rajput.
It's a privilege to welcome all of you on behalf of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education and Sustainable Development, MGIEP, to this second World Youth Conference on Kindness. This is a global event, only one of its kind, and you know, kindness is a core value for humanity, for the future of humanity. The world ahead of the young of today, generations of tomorrow would indeed be very demanding, very complex. Human concerns are already being taken note of, embedded in this Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, the 17 goals with which all of you are familiar. Our task to achieve the targets of these goals has become indeed very tough because of the corona pandemic. Now we will have to put in extra effort at every level. But we know our young people are getting themselves ready for all these tasks. Friends, this is the time to realize how essential it is to comprehend the real meaning of not only philosophical but also pragmatic meaning of world is but family. In India we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The understanding of diversity is very essential. Respect for diversity of every type, cultures of every type, all different cultures, people, their traditions, we have to develop on this. Young persons have not only to prepare for a diverse world, but also get ready to play a leadership role. In fact, the basic objective of MGIEP is to prepare leaders for tomorrow who will lead humanity to a world of peace and tranquility. Please comprehend, and I think we now all of us understand that wars begin in the minds of man. And the defense of peace has to be constructed in the minds of men. This is what UNESCO has taught us and is still teaching us. MGIEP is a part of these efforts. It conceived the idea of creating a global forum to deliberate upon kindness, and it is a unique idea. This institute is convinced that kindness sustains humanity, will sustain humanity, and it will certainly create a better future for tomorrow. After facing two tragic and decimating world wars, global concerns decided to have a forum where they could discuss how we could march towards a world of peace, compassion, and kindness. United Nations organization was created, and then several of its bodies, including UNESCO, all of them have been striving hard to shun violence, to create a world which does not have weapons, wars, and violence. These are the expectations of everyone. We have not succeeded fully, but we have marched ahead. The first conference was held, as you know, in 2019 as a part of global celebration of 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, the global apostle of peace. MGIEP has assumed a global leadership role for the young, and we hope things will move very fast in the next year. As in the earlier year, this institute has collected 8,000 stories of kindness from 120 different countries. Kindness is common to every heart. Human beings are born in love. Let them never shun love. Let them never learn hate. Let them never be taught hate. Let them always be taught love. Let all of us spread love. Revert slightly back to human existence, the present situation, and recall and remember that no one could be happy if his neighbor is not happy. No nation could be happy if other nations are not happy. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rajput, for the timely reminder of the philosophical and pragmatic imperative of the world is but one family, Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that requires universal education, understanding, and appreciation of diversity, and individual and universal internalization of humanistic, moral, and ethical values such as kindness. The youth and leaders of today must take a lead in transforming attitudes, in spreading empathy, compassion, consideration, and above all, learning to live together. We will break out a second musical act, an award-winning dance group from the land of the long white cloud, to show the world the power of dance and kindness.
Hello everyone, my name is Lorraine Zander and I'm the founder of Phase Media and the editor-in-chief of Phase Magazine based out of beautiful Toronto, Canada. We are the global media partner for UNESCO MGIEP and this World Youth Conference on Kindness. For over 20 years, we have worked with young change makers like you that have created positive change in their communities and around the world. Today, you'll see some amazing artists that are impacting their communities through art, activism, and kindness. We hope you love them as much as we do. You might not know them by name, but you've definitely seen them dance. Maybe at J-Lo's Super Bowl halftime show earlier this year, or during Rihanna's Savage X Fenty fashion show. Choreographed by Paris Gobel herself, all the way from New Zealand, this is Request.
Hi, we are
Request Dance Crew,
and we're here supporting
World Youth Kindness.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this sauce so yummy. Know you want this yummy, yummy all in your tummy. Level up, 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 level up. All this on me so yummy, all this sauce so yummy. Know you want this yummy, yummy all in your tummy.
Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the topic of kindness. This is something that I feel like we don't talk enough about, and especially with this year, with everything that's going on with the pandemic, I feel like kindness is especially needed. And yeah, so girls, what does kindness mean to you guys? Leah?
Kindness to me means treating people how you want to be treated.
Just going off of that, I'd say just keeping into thought that we never really know what other people are going through in their own walks of life. So keeping that in mind and knowing that a smile and a compliment can go a long way.
And also just finishing off, kindness to me also means just being able to spread that bit of positivity and happiness and sharing that with others, because like I was thinking about what everyone's going through and just making the world a better place. So, yeah.
And at the end of the day, kindness is always remembered the most. So no matter who you've interacted with and what situations you've been in, at the end of the day, kindness is always really big.
Look how she doing that thing. Boom, bam, feeling the drum. Boom, bam, bass in the tom. Boom, bam, shake it like that, shake it boom. Look how she doing that thing. Boom, bam, feeling the drum. Boom, bam, bass in the tom. Boom, bam, shake it like that, shake it boom.
¿Y el anillo pa' cuándo?
Ahí. Yo mami, arriba, abajo. Arriba, abajo. Arriba, abajo.
And remember, be kind.
That was incredible. Thank you to Request, the all-female award-winning dance group from Auckland, New Zealand. Our yesterday's keynote speaker was Ms. Natasha Mavansa from Zambia. And in keeping with UNESCO MGIEP's commitment to gender equality and providing opportunities to amazing young women kindness champions, I now have the privilege to introduce our youth kindness keynote speaker, Ms. Maria Turkapai Wazir from South Waziristan along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. Maria grew up under the extreme brutal rule of the Taliban, where girls are prohibited from playing sports and receiving an education. With the support of her family, Maria did something amazing and posed as a young boy to get around extreme restrictions. She found her calling in sports and became a world champion squash player. Today, through her foundation, Maria is building schools for girls, a hospital in Pakistan, and organizes peace tournaments. We can't wait to watch a small segment of Maria's life story and to hear from Maria. And after her keynote, we will have a surprise third musical act from Latin America with the same message as Maria on kindness against violence. It's over to you, Maria.
Waziristan, a mountainous tribal region of Pakistan, is a stronghold and haven for Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. It is often still considered one of the most dangerous places on earth. This is where Maria Turkapai fought her greatest battles. Here, the majority of women and girls are illiterate and do not have basic rights like the freedom to leave their homes without an escort or receive an education, and they are definitely forbidden to participate in sports.
I wanted to play outside with boys, running around freely. Didn't want to sit at one place for hours and hours and playing with dolls at home. So I took all my clothes outside, my frocks, my girly dresses. I took them all outside and burnt them.
At only 4.5 years old, and with the support of her family, Maria morphed into a boy, and her father named her after the famous warlord, Genghis Khan. Unknowingly, with this act of defiance, Maria began her journey of activism for equal rights and gender equality. As Genghis Khan, she found a safe haven from the discrimination, and at the age of 12, she discovered her passion for squash. But in order to join a squash academy, she would have to give up the safety of her facade and reveal herself as female. Maria quickly proved herself to be a gifted athlete in her new sport.
My name and pictures were everywhere. There were so many people, they were so excited and happy. And then I got threats.
As her accomplishments grew, so did the death threats from the Taliban. Her blatant defiance would not be tolerated. For her own safety and the safety of her family, Maria made the extreme decision to leave competition. For 3 years, she retreated to practicing against the walls of her bedroom with a new plan to regain her freedom.
I started sending emails, a lot of emails, every day.
She would send over 1,000 emails to colleges, universities, clubs, and academies around the world, offering to become a squash coach in exchange for a place to train with peace of mind. In the end, she received a single response, extending a kindness unlike any other. Offering to train the young athlete was Canadian and former #1 world squash champion Jonathan Power, considered to be one of the greatest shot makers in the history of the game. With Jonathan's help, Maria was able to train in Canada, join the World Tour, and is now considered Pakistan's greatest ever female player. Today, Maria continues her fight for peace and gender equality through sport and proper humanitarian education. Committed to long-term advocacy, Maria has created the Maria Torpakai Foundation. Its mission is to empower youth and women to promote peaceful communities through sports, health, and education, and to energize athlete activists worldwide.
If I can be an international squash player, so they can be. शाइस्ता दे करना शाइस्ता ये लो कोमल ये तुम अच्छा खेल रही हो अच्छा मैंने बड़ा सुना है तो मैंने कहा एक और भी दे दो ठीक है
मुझे स्क्वाश पसंद था मैंने फर्स्ट टाइम मारिया का मैच देखा और मेहनत कर रहे हैं इंशाल्लाह हम भी एक दिन इतनी की जैसे आज ये बनी है चैंपियन इंशाल्लाह हम भी
और बार खाल खुदा ना वही तो हम स्क्वाश शुरू करेंगे
जी अलग बार खुद से ढेर खबर की राखों पे खबर थी जी अलाहौर होना देना खबरें खूब खैर की है मंग खपल मेहनत जारी साथ पूरी चीज सकी
A full-length feature film documentary on Maria's incredible journey called The War to Be Her debuted at the Toronto International Film Festival, and Maria has since published her autobiography, A Different Kind of Daughter, The Girl Who Hid from the Taliban in Plain Sight.
Our bravery is in educating women, respecting women, empowering women. No one is the slave of anyone on this earth. Everyone is free. You're born free and you have to live free. It's not easy for girls to play sports, but especially from the areas that I come from the Pashtun belt of Pakistan, the tribal areas on Pak-Afghan border. And I'm the only female athlete who turned professional. I started playing squash professionally. And this journey was like a roller coaster. It wasn't easy to become a professional squash player. And especially in this area where girls are not even allowed to get education, to go to schools. We don't have schools that much, and sports don't exist. And at the same time, this culture is very
very extremely patriarchal, very in favor of our males. And our women, they don't have any rights. The rights don't exist. So I was lucky. I was very lucky that I have my parents who are very broad-minded and who believed in me, who believed that a daughter and a son, they both are equal and they deserve equal opportunities, equal freedom, and they, whether it's a girl or a boy, they all can contribute to the society as being human. So I got my education. I was homeschooled. At the same time, my parents let me be myself. When I was young, I burned all my girly dresses, cut my hair short at age 4.5. And at that time, when my dad saw me by the fire, he, instead of getting upset with me, he actually named me Genghis Khan. And from that day, I grew up with that name, Genghis Khan. I was free. I was playing outside like boys. And, it was the best thing ever happened. And I was able to explore the region way, like nobody, no other girl could have ever done that. And I had the freedom. I was playing sports outside, the local sports. And, nobody knew that I was a girl. So that also kept me very safe. At the same time, I saw a huge difference in the lives of boys and girls. So the girls, I saw them confined to 4 walls, to their homes, playing with dolls or taking care of their families. They were taught from young age, that you are going to get married and you will be, that's your future. So, but my parents taught me that I can be myself, I can do whatever I want. And I turned professional squash player, and with the support of my parents. Yes, there were times when I got threats. There were people who were not happy with this whole thing. They thought it's a shame that a girl is playing sports. They shamed my parents for that, for giving me my rights, my freedom. And today, there are a lot of people that changed with my parents' behavior too, because they learned that a daughter is not a burden. She can also be helpful to the family. She can also contribute to the family, to the society. And again, there were people, when I got threats from the Taliban, from the terrorists, back in that area, I couldn't play squash for 3 years. I was locked in my bedroom. I was hitting against my bedroom wall for 3 years. But there were people who also gave me encouragement. The positivity from them also kept me going. Yes, there were a lot of negativity around us. There were a lot of people who stuck to the outdated customs, the extremely conservative culture. They did not want to change, and they wanted us to be like them. And there were people who actually saw this change that we were introducing as a good omen. And they named their daughters on me, on my name, on my sister's name. They asked me that they want their daughters to play sports. You see the change in mindset. They see this. It's a beautiful thing that gives hope, gave me hope, gave my parents hope that we are all on the right path. At the same time, sports, squash, introduced me to the rest of the world. I traveled around the world. I met so many wonderful people, and I learned about so many wonderful cultures. And I see that We all can have differences. We are all unique in very different ways. But we are all humans. We are all same. 2 hands, 2 legs, 1 head. We all think. We are all smart. We are all we all have families. We love them. We all have friends. One of the beautiful story I want to share is when I wasn't able to play squash for 3 years, I had a hope that I am going to make it and I will continue to be myself. I'm not going to give up. And after 3 years later, from North America, from Canada, a guy who was a world champion, Jonathan Power, he reached out to me and said, how come a girl from this region is playing sports and squash at that high level? I want to help you. That help, that one word, I also have a strong faith, I think, that was from God, from the universe, from the divine energy. He was a source. He reached out to me. And that kindness was delivered through him, by him, to me. And it actually gave me hope. Again, I was reborn. I came to Canada. And people with open hearts accepted me. I'm a Muslim. I'm from the tribal region that is known only for exporting terrorism. And here I am, a squash player, professional squash player. That's a change. And when people did not question me about, I was afraid at a point that if I come here, what people would ask me, because you hear a lot of negativity too. You're like, oh, maybe the people are against Muslims, or maybe the people are, I'm coming from that region, maybe they will think I'm a terrorist too. But the terrorists are handful people. There are a lot of good people. They're at this transitional point that they want change. And I am here. I'm here to be their voice, to be that person that can give them those opportunities. I started Maria Torpekai Foundation. I knew that I am the only one who made it out from that region. And I speak 3 languages, Pashto, English, Urdu. I can speak for them. I can introduce them to the rest of the world. And I will give them sports, I will give them education, I will give them health, so no kid, no child would ever end up as a terrorist. They need opportunities, and I believe that these people never had these opportunities. The only thing they had was guns and drugs. We were always in the war. We are on Afghan border. We are the Afghans, and us, we all have same culture, same people. The only thing is, I wish our governments, those higher authorities would have given them books and sports. The story today would have been different. We would have been useful citizens to this world. And we will be. The things are changing. People don't want war. People don't want weapons. They want books. They want schools. They want sports. And I know through my foundation, Maria Torpekai Foundation, I'm focused on that. Maria Torpekai Foundation is focused on achieving SDGs. Goal number 16, I already built a hospital for women and children. SDG goal number 3, we want to hold border games, to hold a peaceful sports events between India and Pakistan, and Afghanistan and Pakistan. The next one is education. Goal number 4. I want to build, and I'm building, sports school for girls and women. And it's not only about sports, but also education. We all can achieve SDGs. We can all contribute to make this world a better place. Let's be responsible.
Dear Maria, we cannot thank you enough for a wonderful keynote. Stories such as yours need to be told and heard. The title of your autobiography, A Different Kind of Daughter, the Girl Who Hid from the Taliban in Plain Sight, captures your champion spirit, and we're excited to hear about the documentary on your incredible journey.
With every beat of their drum, these musical activists rage against corruption and violence while they fight every day to end poverty and hunger through art. From Bogota, Colombia, this is Ainja.
is a playground for corruption, iniquity, and therefore violence. When our performance is over, here in Colombia, people will still be killed. Kindness is about taking action, stepping out of your comfort zone. Our action is to create and educate in art because we deeply believe in its power to transform our people. 1, 2, 3, 4!
We must stop believing that memory is a privilege and start fighting for it as a right. It's time for those who have the power and the voice to speak in the name of the forgotten. Don't sit behind a desk waiting for someone to do something for. Small deeds are change.
Tocamos los tambores porque suena más fuerte que las balas. Y así maquillamos la tristeza y alegría.
Arey wah, as we say in India, oh wow. Ainja means to create, to do, to build in the language of the indigenous Bayou people of Colombia. Totally relevant for the youth to create kindness against violence and corruption. We now turn to a panel on kindness for achieving the SDGs. I will be introducing the panel moderator, Dr. Anantha Durayappa, who in turn will introduce the panelists and the topic, especially as it relates to the very purpose of this conference, the Kindness Declaration calling for a new UN International Day of Kindness. Yesterday, I introduced you to Dr. Anantha, listing only a few of his many official accomplishments. For those of you joining us today, Dr. Anantha took the position as inaugural director of the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development in 2014. He is presently focusing on strengthening the science policy nexus in education by researching and exploring how neurosciences of learning can contribute to developing emotional and intellectual intelligence through innovative digital pedagogies. Now, what you'd like to know about Dr. Anantha is he's a high-level kendo expert and a fan of Star Trek and Star Wars. Welcome again, Dr. Anantha. The Zoom is yours. May the force be with you.
This is what happens when you get an old dog to get on technology. I was on without the video and the mute and talking away comfortably. And then my staff in front say, hey, get the video on, guy. Nobody's watching you, nobody's listening to you. So let me start again here. Today we celebrate 75th birthday of the UN. And I think it's an interesting year for it to celebrate 2020. The reason I say it's interesting is because of a little fellow that has really brought us to our senses. It's called COVID-19. And it's told us why we really need the UN as a body. There have been an emerging trend moving away from multilateralism. Human memory tends to be very short-lived, and we've forgotten the World War that we actually reasoned why we set up this international body. And here we were going back into our old ways. And this virus says, guys, no, you have to work together. You are all in this together, and you are one. And I really took inspiration from Maria's talk, and where she emphasized about, we're all very similar. Neurobiologically, we're very similar. And so this is why I think it comes at a right time. But again, it's an organization that's 75 years old, so it needs change. And I think it was built on the foundations of governance and legal jurisprudence. But I think now it's a time for it to take on a moral imperative, as Immanuel Kant always emphasized, the moral imperative, that it is a constitutive part of ourselves that we want this organization, not just purely as an instrumental use for our well-being. And who better to take this challenge than the young, the youth of the world? and you can see the energy coming out from those performances. Got me all excited. And it takes a lot to get this one excited. And I was smiling to myself, and it also takes a lot to put a smile on my face, as my staff continuously say. So I think the youth are really the ones to take this challenge, because they always are impatient. They're not sort of saying, well, this is the way it is, and this is how the system is, and we have to live. No, they're impatient, and you can see that impatience. And if one reflects on our own time, we were impatient as well. And I hope to think I'm still impatient. So at this second conference, World Youth Conference on Kindness, the Global Youth Alliance on Kindness, they call themselves GWAC, very interesting acronym, but the GWAC has said that we want the UN to be an organization or an institution of kindness. And what better way than to sort of say that we will have a UN International Day of Kindness. So here we are to have a panel discussion on how and whether this makes sense, all right, in the first case. And Maria had talked and alluded to this thing called the SDGs. It's called the Sustainable Development Goals. So before I introduce my panelists, I want to start a poll here. And I'm going to tell my staff to put this poll up. The first poll or question is, how many of you have heard or know what the SDGs stand for? And we have 4 questions. One is yes, very simple. The second one is no, also very simple, binary. Then the third is yes, and they are development goals for developing countries. And the fourth is yes, and they are development goals for all countries. So pick your answer, and we'll tell you in a little while where the majority went and alluded to, and see whether we have any hope and whether the initial starting conditions are good. So with that, let me introduce my panel. I got a really interesting and exciting panel out here. We're following the MGIEP's tag, talking across generations. We got 3 from the youth, well, basically defined by age. But I think youth by age is no longer, it's kind of old concept. And I always consider myself as a youth as well, in spite of the gray attire here. So first, I want to introduce Lena, who comes from Palestine but lives in Canada. She has worked primarily on refugee issues, has done a documentary, worked in the UNCCD, the UN's agency to combat desertification, so did a lot of work on land issues. So welcome, Lena. Happy to have you on board. The second is Mr. Nikhil Taneja, I'll call you Nikhil, who is a co-founder and a CEO. So he's already started his path here. He's already a CEO at this age. And his main work has been on mental health and identity issues, as well as gender, and works primarily in India, but has global consequences of what his work is. So welcome, Nikhil. Good to have you here. My third panelist is Amal Abayad, who's the vice president of the Tunisian Medical. Now, she's a medical doctor, 25 years old, and she's a resident in orthopedic surgery. I've kind of volunteered to be her patient in another few years when I need the next shoulder replacement. I've already got this one completely, it's bionic right now, titanium. This one is up, so I'll be a volunteer if you can take that challenge. Now, Amal has worked primarily in terms of pushing the health agenda, so SDG 3, and she really is passionate about having it equitable and also the gender issues as well. So welcome, Amal. Now, we have the 2 seniors, just by age, both very young at heart. I want to welcome Ambassador Vishal V. Sharma. who's been just appointed to be the permanent representative of India to UNESCO. So I think he's in the midst of moving. And so thank you, Ambassador, for taking the time, because I know you're actually moving. The movers are in your house as we speak. And I think you take the flight tonight or maybe even tomorrow, but you have, I hope that you believe passionately about this issue. And so you said, hold the flight. I'm going to take part in this panel discussion, and then I'll come and take that flight to Paris. So thank you for being here. And then, of course, I have none other than Miss Leslie Woodwin, a BAFTA award winner. So anybody who wins a BAFTA needs that special recognition. It's not an easy one to win. And she works on education, primarily on education, has started a organization called Think Equal, a global education initiative. So with these 5 panelists, we're going to start the first discussion. Now, let me see what the polls said. So the good news is, I think the interesting, we got good starting conditions. 56% say that there are development goals for all countries. And that was very unique about the SDGs than from the MDGs, because for the SDGs, it was for all countries, and it wasn't just for the, the so-called developed and the least developed countries. So spot on to the young participants in this particular session. And I think we are already on a good start. Now, taking that aside, give you a little bit background on this 2015 SDGs. 193 countries signed on, 17 of them basically cuts across nearly every spectrum that really contributes to how to make a human flourish. It's not about just economic growth like in the old days, but it's about human flourishing, your own, and as well as societal flourishing. Now, I want to throw a dilemma here, right? The dilemma here is the whole issue of distribution, extremely sensitive, and it's one that is what I call the elephant in the room. We have, and Oxfam reported it, is that the world's richest 1%, I think the way they define it is these are people with wealth of about $1 million US, actually get 82% of the wealth. Now that's a huge inequality out there. Inequality itself is an SDG. But the problem is, if you don't address that one, and we live on a finite planet, and this will be this is something that Vishal would pick up as a physicist by training in terms of entropy and the whole notion of finite resources. Hey, make it simple. You get a cake, 6 people there, and you cut half the cake and give it to one, and the remaining 5 have to fight over the remaining half of that cake, right? The system is set for competition. The system is set for predatory behavior. And here, you guys, the young ones, coming and saying kindness. So this is work, right? So I want to start off by throwing this to Lena. Let us start off this whole discussion from your experiences to try to make this convincing, Gamya. I'm not convinced that kindness will work because we have this this situation that has grown over not only the 75 years, but since humanity. So how are you going to change this? Lena.
Thank you, Dr. Ananta. Well, as you mentioned, I honestly relate kindness to sustainability. You look at SDG 15, land on life, and let's say you take Madagascar as a case study. With a large part of the population in farming and the average plot size less than 1.3 hectares, you can safely say that land is an essential part of everyday life for most. Now, with the country experiencing increasingly harsh droughts and desertification continuing to spread, it's becoming more and more difficult to survive off that land. Well, recently, female farmers have stepped up. They've started to share their scarce water resources, their short crop cycle seeds, as well as technical knowledge they've learned. Together, they have gone from an extreme resource and extreme scarcity to being able to sell small surplus at local markets. For sure, kindness might not be the only answer, but it is certainly a critical element in resource distribution and working towards a better life for all. That's our perspective from SDG 15.
All right, interesting point. I want to pick up when you talk about the women farmers have come together. So basically collaboration, I think what they call it is going back to 100, 200 years ago in terms of managing the commons and managing the pool resources. It's what you're talking about. Now, the system tends to push towards privatization of land. And this is one of the problems with the neoliberal, neoclassical kind of economic paradigms that we have, is that they say, based on a couple of studies, I think the most important one was the Bolstrop one in Kenya, where private lands tend to produce better outcomes. But we know that doesn't always work. And your example talks about collaboration. How does kindness fit in where there's a broader system that tries to push against that? It tries to privatize. It tries to sort of say, you take care of yours. And the fact is the system, the ecosystems require you to collaborate. I want to help you sort of think about that. And I want to throw it to, let's say, who would want to take a stab on it? Put up your hands if you want to take a stab of it before I come and throw that question to you. Leslie is just jumping up and down with her hands and say, I want to talk, I want to talk. So Leslie, go ahead.
Okay, well, thank you, Lena, for that very eloquently expressed and thought-provoking introduction to this. I see kindness as the bridge. It's not the end goal, but it's what we have to work with right now, because kindness is active. Kindness is about behaviors. Now, you are 100% right, Anand. We cannot go any further in this world with these goals until and unless we have system change. And why is that? Because the system, as you so rightly have just said, the system is set up for the 1%. The system is set up by the 1%. The system is set up by patriarchy. How on earth can we progress until we have system change? And that is what those goals are all about. On each goal, there is a system change that is being asked for, that is being set as the bar. So we have to work towards system change, but none of us are naive enough to think that we can achieve this overnight. We have nearly 9 and a bit years left now before 2030, because a bar has been set, a deadline has been set by the UN member states to achieve the SDGs by 2030. Let us start with kindness. Let us start with a commitment to do. Kindness is active. Empathy, which is actually, I believe, more fundamental and more critically needed than kindness, is much harder to achieve, because you can really only achieve empathy experientially through education at a very early age. And we've denied our children that opportunity. We have not given them, as Maria's amazing story so beautifully showed us, we have not given them the opportunities they deserve. And so we need to work slowly towards that. But let's start with kindness.
Thanks, Leslie. You brought up a couple of interesting things about empathy, more important than kindness. And we'll talk, I hope we get some time and talk instead of sort of making it a point that they are linked and one is necessary for the other, based on some of the latest research from the neurosciences, because there has been criticisms in terms of empathy with the whole notion of empathetic distress and how kindness tends to overcome that. But I wanted to really talk about system change, because that's something really important. And I want to go to Vishal, because he's going to be a representative from the government of India to UNESCO, and systems are the ones that, you know, I think governments as institutions, I don't want to talk them as organizations, but institutions, the custodians of the rules and norms that dictate the way we behave. Vishal, tell me whether the kind of system change that Leslie is talking about and how she thinks kindness can actually push that. Is it naive, or is it something that is attainable and what needs to be done at the governance level?
Thank you, Ananta. I hope I'm audible to everyone. I wish all the viewers and all the participants a very happy Dasera. Today happens to be the day of Vijayadashmi in India, that signifies the victory of Lord Ram over Ravana. It's a great day in India, and we extend these good wishes and well-being to everybody on this planet. You know, I'll give you one example. Before 2014, the government was thinking of rationing the amount of gas cylinders that households get per annum. When the Modi government came in 2014, they changed the entire system. And how did they do that? They gave gas connections to the poorest of the poor households. And when you talk about giving gas connections in India, because India is the 17% of the human species lives in India, any small change in India has a global impact. 8 crore poorest of the poor households, 8 crore means 80 million households, impacting 360 million of the poorest people, which is more than the entire population of the United States of America, were given gas connections. By giving gas connections, what did we do? We reduced the cooking time that it takes to make rice and lentils from 2.5 hours to just 45 minutes. We reduced the air pollutant in the air because wooden stoves give a lot of pollution, and this impacted the women of the family. Women in the family are now saving 1,000 hours per annum. This is the free time they're getting that they can give on their children, on themselves. And we are seeing a silent revolution of a global scale happening in India. The Modi government changed the system. It made the system more empathetic. We brought in, instead of rationing the gases, we made it open to all. And India is today the largest importer of LNG gas in the whole world. So the Modi government did this small change and it had a major impact. How was this change initiated? It was out of the kindness of the heart of the decision makers. So when we want to impact change, we have to somehow transform human hearts. You know, someone said, if I can see with the other man's eyes and I can feel with the other man's heart, I would know just what it feels like to be playing the other man's part. So we need kindness. We need kindness in all of us, but specifically, Ananta, if we want to change the system, we need kindness in the hearts of the leaders of the world today, as exhibited by the Modi government.
So institutionalizing socio-emotional learning and making that a requirement for leadership might be an interesting outcome from this discussion that we are having right now. I don't know why I've lost Amal in my screen that I have in front of me, but I want to, there she is. I want to go straight because Vishal, and I read your biography, and you were kind of the mastermind behind the flipping of the butterfly. Let's see whether that nonlinear dynamics will evolve through the world. But I want to go to Nikhil, who comes from same place. What is your perspective? I'm not asking you to challenge Vishal, but just to give your perspective as a youth who's been working on gender issues, who's been talking about primarily mental health. Give us a little bit of your reflections.
First of all, I just want to thank you for inviting me to this conference. I think kindness has been my life philosophy for years and years and years. So a conference like this really feels like, actually, even if it wasn't Dasera today, I would have felt like this is a festival, just the fact that we are having a conversation around kindness. I actually want to take off from the point that Leslie made. She was talking about patriarchy, and I mean, everyone's given such important and great comments. And I want to link that to the kind of work that I have been doing, and I understand. So I've gone across the country for the last couple of years. I've gone to over 100 colleges. I've met over 10,000 young people in person. I have been to over 35 cities of India, and I've tried listening to young people. And what I've realized is a lot of what we are all talking about today, about the institutional change that is needed. But I feel that, it is needed not at the level only of institutions, but also all our family structures. It is needed at the level in our homes, where unfortunately, when a girl is born in India, she's still told that her goal and her mission statement of life is to go on to marry somebody. And a boy who's born in India is told that you have to go on and earn money. You have to be the family, you have to be in many ways the hunter, whereas the wife is going to be the gatherer. There is so much pressure put on, patriarchy put so much pressure on young people even before they were born. Their life goals and life stories are decided in advance by their parents, by society, that they have no other option but to fall into those labels, to fall into those traps, to believe that there are those boys and boys become men in our country before they become human. And women are always kind of told that your only place in society is to be submissive, is to let the boys lead and let the boys rescue them. And unless we really have this conversation about kindness, about empathy in classrooms, unless we have this conversation in our homes, very little is going to change. And this is what is affecting the mental health of young people. It is making young people feel it's making them feel really alone. SDG 3, 4, 5 are all connected almost directly with how we talk about empathy at a college level, at a school level, in our homes. Unless we have unfortunately divided the world in labels, and told that, we are this kind of a gender, this kind of a sexuality, this kind of a caste, community, creed, nation, etc., etc. And everybody started identifying themselves as that before identifying themselves as human beings. And I feel like humanity has to be above all of these labels. And unless we practice kindness in our day-to-day, like the affirmative action of kindness is needed in our day-to-day life. It is needed in our schools, it is needed in our colleges, it is needed in our homes. And I'm reiterating this because it is, I feel, the fundamental change that we need to bring in our society if we need the larger global scale. What you spoke about at the very beginning about the income inequality, it is because we make when young people are born, we are, as a society, we place more incentive on the individual versus incentive on the collective. We say you are more important than your neighbor. You are compared with your neighbor. All of these things, unfortunately, have resulted in this structure, which is making us less kind. And I'm so glad we have this. We're having this day that will hopefully make things better for all of us.
So I'm going to intervene a little bit more. If I'm kind of wanting to do 1 to 2 minutes for each intervention so that we can get a discussion. You brought up the whole notion of identity. I want to pull that. But I want to go to a poll, a second poll now, because we've been talking about kindness, a lot of kindness, and then I will come to Amal after we have this poll. The second poll is, what is kindness? Because there's a lot of people are kind of confused in terms of what is kindness based from the neurosciences perspective versus a more general layman's kind of term. So the first, what is kindness? The first is charity. The second is philanthropy. And the third is giving with compassion. And we'll kind of, while the poll goes on, Amal, you come from, your background is in Palestine, Tunisia. And with the spring, there was I'm trying to recall that spring where you had that major change or in terms of governance and those kind of set up the whole democratic movement and stuff. Now, identity, I want to throw that notion of identity towards you that Nikhil had brought up in terms of, we tend to try to think of identity as just one. And Amartya Sen in his book talked about notion of multiple identities. Now, would kindness be kind of a trigger to push down this? I'm not sure whether it's natural. I would think it's more of an institutional or a systems to push us towards just thinking of us as only being able to be with one identity. What are your thoughts based on your experiences, primarily working within the medical field, working with patients across from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different genders, many with different identities. What do you think about this notion of multiple identities?
Thank you. I see kindness as healthy. And when we speak of health, it's a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of infirmity and disease. And therefore, it's the essence of human existence. And not being healthy or not being socially well, it deprives us from working, from having fun, from living. And with these opening words, let me bring it to a medical point of view. Our body is run by chemicals, and kindness has an effect in our body. It helps to increase several hormones like oxytocin and serotonin, and which are similar to antidepressant drugs. So why use medication, like pharmaceutical medication, while we have a most natural one? And you can imagine the world as a giant puzzle. And I'll be asking you to link or to finish it, but you don't seem to find the piece in the center of it, and you cannot stick it to the wall. And I'll let you think that kindness is that one specific piece to be placed in the center of the world. Therefore, it's important to have it. And multiple identities tend to be seen as part to enhance or to ensure social well-being. So it's important to work on health, to be empathic where you work, and to have that doctor to patient relationship as smooth as based on empathy as possible in order to deliver the best treatment.
So it's interesting you brought in the neurosciences. Now, the easy way out is just inject each one of us with a lot of serotonin and the endorphins every day, and we are in a state of perpetual happiness. But of course, then that's not the answer. But you bring up an interesting point in the sense that kindness can be trained, because kindness, the research shows, does release a feel good. And I personally have experienced that. Not being kind to a fellow human being, but being kind to, we were taking a holiday and we were driving along a highway, and there was a little thing that kind of moved, and it was a little kitten right in the middle of a highway, and cars were just zooming past. And it was just a matter of time when it's going to go. And so we kind of pulled over in a highway, cars going, and pulled down the traffic, managed to save it before it was squashed. And I don't know, I have never felt so good in my life before. Even I've never felt so good when I hit somebody on the head when I'm playing kendo. This had a better release of all these feel-good neurotransmitters. So we should try to do this more often. And I just, that was a real, I would say, a tipping point in my life's trajectory. So how do we get this initiated, I guess, is what you guys are trying to do with this International Day of Kindness. Nina, going back to you, I assume you're now stationed in Canada, but you have a Palestinian background. That's why I got you're mute.
I'm actually from Albania.
I have in my notes, I don't know why they have you from...
Maybe because I worked in Palestine, but I'm from Albania.
All right, so you got 3 identities there. If you have worked in Palestine, well, you got one that you would have actually taken on, and you are now you're living in Canada, and then you have Albania. How does that feel? Do you, especially with very different value systems, which are across these, do you have dissonance at time, or or you're comfortable, and how did you reach that level of comfort that with these kind of multiple identities? And of course, then you have the gender dimension as well.
The thing is, I grew up like this since I was a little child, 2 years old. I grew up moving a lot and was constantly exposed to very different atmospheres. So as an adult, it doesn't strike me anymore. The gender aspect, I think it's a whole other conference, I would say, from the different things that we perceive, but really bringing it back to the importance of this day and why it's necessary and why it's important. It's not about creating another symbolic day. We have over 250 of those in the UN. What I see the importance of today truly is to make sure that those other 364 days outside of the International Day of Kindness count and that are important. We have to make daily acts of kindness a micro habit, not a one-off celebration. When you look into studies by social psychologists, they say that it takes over 66 days to actually form an automatic habit. So one day is not enough, and neither are 21. An act of kindness can be something as simple as recycling a container and repurposing it. It can be buying someone else's ticket on the bus when they're short on change, because we never know the impact that we can have. And those feel-good effects that Amal was talking about, the serotonin and the immediate dopamine release, sometimes we don't get that. Sometimes we don't know what that impact is about. But it could be that container saved an animal's life in the ocean by not being caught in it. It could be that one bus ticket that you bought for the person behind you means that they made that interview. They weren't late, and that interview then later changed their lives. I really think today is about celebrating the efforts that we make every single day, those micro habits of building kindness, even in our daily lives. And even if we don't see those direct effects, we can all come together in one day and celebrate that together about the effort that we do every single other day.
It's interesting you talked about life in the oceans. I just watched yesterday a documentary, The Octopus, My Teacher. And I'm not sure how many of you have seen this. Any of the panelists have seen this documentary on Netflix, Octopus, My Teacher? Have a look, and it's about a year-long relationship between a man and this octopus, and you could see emotions from both sides. And it was remarkable in terms of, I think this is one of the best ways to teach biodiversity conservation, rather than just telling our young people about biodiversity, why it's important, to sort of see how every life is so precious. You kind of basically stole my next line, Lena, because I was kind of going to move on into, a UN day. All right, we have, as you mentioned, did you peek at my notes? No, I don't know. I think maybe somebody here is spying. But anyway, I had sort of exactly those numbers. That we have more than 240 plus UN days today at the moment, and we have. Oh, okay. I've been just told I have to tell you the polls about the last question. What is kindness? 83% were saying giving with compassion. 8% for philanthropy and 9% for charity. Interesting. I don't think many people think highly of philanthropists among the world, which means the 1% that we were talking about. So we need to change that whole perception. But coming back now to, we're moving on into this UN day that's being called for by the GWAC. And I say we have 240 days. And in yesterday's interventions, I was sort of saying, if you look at the Day of Nonviolence, which coincides with the birthday of Gandhiji, that's him. For those who don't know him, I'm sure everybody does, but that's the picture of Gandhi at the back. I'm at the office. We get, and then the same thing with other days, the days to celebrate gender diversity, the days on literacy, the days on biodiversity conservation, we get proclamations, we get speeches, we need to do this, we need to do this, and it goes on year and year on. And then the following day, we are back to business as usual, either destroying biodiversity, but we're saying, oh, well, that's business. That's economic. We need the GDP growth rates. We need, we need more land if you're having a conflict, or this is our land. And so, yeah, yesterday was the day of nonviolence, but today we are back to killing each other for this, for these bits of resources and so forth and so on. So what must we do to make this day count so that it does not become another day, or critics of what you young people are trying to do to get this UN Day of Kindness will not even have a chance to even come and be critical. So it's been put forward by the GUAC, which you three would, I hope, represent. I am going to start with the older segment of the panelists. Leslie, what do you think would make this day different than from all the existing ones? What needs to be so unique?
A couple of seconds ago, I just read a comment from one of our attendees called Mutia Al-Nimrat. Mutia so movingly and simply and beautifully said the following: kindness is good behavior with others. Simple, how true. There is no kindness without another person being in the equation. Kindness is not about ourselves. It's not about what's in it for me. We oldies, and I don't even exclude myself, we are part of the unkind generation. We are part of the generation that has screwed this up royally for our children and our grandchildren. And we have to look to you, the youth, to be active because, as you've said, Ananta, we have had declaration upon declaration. We've had the Declaration of Human Rights. We've had the Convention on the Rights of the Child. And we talk about it endlessly. And we have conferences. What is beautiful about this day of kindness, and why I am committing myself over and beyond being on a panel, Abel, the CEO of the Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Education and Peace, knows I'm doing all I can to, partner with the MGIEP, because I believe this can make the difference. This is not a peace day where we talk again about what can we do to achieve peace. This is a kindness day where we can go out and be kind immediately. Nothing needed, no education needed, just do acts of kindness. That is what distinguishes this so beautifully. It's behavioral. It's not dependent on mindset change, because actually everything else in terms of progressing sustainable development in this world, stopping our development crises and emergencies, everything else depends upon mindset change. Now, I just want to very briefly tell you something that I'm afraid is going to be very shocking and maybe slightly controversial. I want to preface it by telling you that, Nikhil, when you were talking so eloquently about, the problems of patriarchy, etc. in India, we have to say this is not confined to India. There is not one country in the world that is not patriarchal. There is not one country in the world that does not need mindset change on an urgent basis. Here's the shocking thing. You may know that I sat for 31 hours over several weeks interviewing rapists and murderers in jail. I looked into their eyes for 31 hours. I know them. I can tell you one thing. Those men didn't have a hope in hell of growing up and doing anything other than rape, because they've been taught to rape by society, by culture, the world over. And who has taught them to rape? We have. We have taught them to rape. We have taught them what inequality is. We have taught them that they are destined for one thing and girls are destined for another, that girls are of lesser value, that different rules apply to girls. So when a particular girl was out at night after dark with her boyfriend at 23 years old, she not only deserved what she got, said the rapists to me, but they had a duty to teach her a lesson. Can you imagine? That is the state of the world we are in and the world we have created. So kindness isn't going to do it. Let's be realistic. Let's face it. I can tell you that 2 of the rapists I interviewed were kind men. I know that's shocking. I know you're going to be appalled to hear me say that. I wish I could much more reassuringly tell you that they were monsters. They were not monsters. They were men whose mindsets we had encouraged, and by encouraging inequality in their minds, we encouraged their acts. So what we have to really do is tackle inequality. That is why the organization I lead is called Think Equal. And we tackle inequality in children between 3 and 6. Believe me, after 6, you cannot lay the foundation for equality. So that is my take on it, but that is why I am so in awe and admiration of the MGIEP for calling for this Day of Kindness, and please everyone support it. It's something concrete we can do. We can start right now.
Thank you, Lindsay. But I agree with many of your points, but I want to take on a little bit on terms of the kindness within the way that it's being framed within the neurosciences. But what I want to hear immediately is that Lena earlier on had talked about this day being slightly different in a sense that we need to look at the preceding 364 days and just not just one particular day, and then continue for the next forward 360. So it becomes a daily factor. She put into my idea in terms of, and yes, well, as you as well, Leslie, because I have that name, Leslie, and then I've got this notion of a counter, which I had written, which means we are alluding towards, let's try to start a counter. And I want to bring that up as a challenge to the GWAC before we finish off today. I want to push very quickly to Vishal in terms of some of the responses that you might have in terms of the difference between mindset change and kindness, which is not related. Leslie, correct me if I'm wrong. What you're saying is kindness will not lead to a mindset change.
No, never, never, not in a million years.
Okay, so that it is a pity. I would have loved to have had a neuroscientist here to counter that. But what I will do is I'll put my head from what I've learned from people like Richie Davidson, who talk about well-being as a skill. And I think kindness is also a skill that can be trained. But if we have time, we'll have a chat on that. I want to get from Vishal, and I want to hear more from the young brigands that we have here.
Just to say, Richie Davidson is on my committee of Think Equal. So we have neuroscience right in there.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting how he thinks about what you just said. I'm having a chat with him over the next week. I'll bring that up and we'll get back to you. Vishal, and then I will go to the GWACs. I'm going to call you guys the GWACs from now onwards. Vishal, please. And thank you, Leslie. You just got me off my job. Abel is now the CEO of MGIEP. I'm not sure what my job is anymore. I have to go and find a new job now.
Forgive me, I'm old. I must have Alzheimer's.
No, I'm just, they are laughing in the background here. Vishal, please go ahead.
All right. I hope I'm audible to everyone. You know, I feel that I'm listening to Leslie. I don't want to reduce the debate on kindness into a debate on atrocities on women, because kindness impacts much larger social issues, you know. It impacts the future trajectory of mankind on this planet. Yes, atrocities on women is a very terrible thing, but it's a thing that is common to all nations,
yes,
not just one particular nation. In fact, the highest rape rates in the world are in Sweden. Rape rates per capita population are Sweden and the United States of America. The amount of rapes in Africa are humongous. But let us not reduce this debate on kindness on the atrocities that our sisters, our mothers, and the women face. But let us expand the debate on kindness. I feel that every human child is an example of kindness because it is something inbuilt in our genes. I inherently feel that the human species is a kind-hearted species. In fact, we labor extra hard to become the devils that we ultimately end up becoming and exploiting not only each other, but extending this exploitation of our planet itself. In fact, the simplest acts of kindness are more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. This was said by Mahatma Gandhi. Let me also say one more thing. People aspire to be rich and powerful, but how many aspire to be kind to others? In the Drona Parva of the great ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata, the great king Raja Rantidev says in ancient Sanskrit, "Na tvam kamai rajyam, na moksham, na swargam, na punarbhavam, kamai dukhataptanam, praninam arthina shananam." It says, "I desire neither for a kingdom nor for the heavens, not even for salvation from the cycle of birth and death. The only desire I cherish is the eradication of the sufferings of all creatures." And mind you, all creatures mean human and non-human as well. It's kindness towards our own species, kindness towards the flora and fauna, kindness towards our environment, and kindness towards our planet. It is not just an individual act of kindness, but we need kindness at the regional level, at the national level, at a global level. Don't try for change, but be the change that you want to see in the world. First, change yourself. Leslie, may I just finish, please? I'll just, you get a chance to speak. But before attempting to change others, one cannot ask others to quit smoking with a cigarette in one's own hands. It's a classical Plato versus Aristotle debate. Plato said, "Conquer your world before conquering others." If I can change, then you can change. And if you and I can change, then certainly the whole world can change. Hence, how can we make this day significant? Well, we can make this day significant by ensuring that let us quantify the amount of kindness. If everybody is kind, or at least the youth of this world are kind, let us make one kind act a day. And that kind act doesn't mean going and giving somebody money. No, you may just go to your father and mother and give them a hug every day. You tell them, "I love you. I want to do what, let me know how can I serve you." You can go to your hostel mate. You can go to your friend. You can even tell Ananta, call him up and say, "Ananta, I hope your knee is doing well." Just be kind-hearted, not just in your action, but also in your words. Let us endeavor. We will not say a harsh word to anyone, even if we are irritated. We will not shout at people. Can we do these small things on ourselves rather than trying to change others? I feel, Ananta, that if we can just, the youth of India, I'm no longer youth, but not only the youth of India, but the youth of the world, if they can resolve that we will not say a harsh word, say for the next 1 month, for the next 30 days, for the next 60 days, I will say sweet words to people. Perhaps it is a very small thing, but it's a small thing in a larger direction. I feel this is a positive step, that we can be kind in our actions, in our words, and in our thoughts. Let us also be kind towards others in our thought. It doesn't matter whether the other person is a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or an African or an American or a rich or a poor, man, woman, transgender, human, animal. Let us be kind to all mankind. As we say in India, samasta manav jati, praninam, the whole, not only the manav, the human species, but all other creatures in the world. I'm a vegetarian, but I don't want to impose vegetarianism on others. Let people eat what they want, but let us be kind to all. Let us aspire to be sweet in our words, and let us aspire to be sweet in our thoughts, Ananta.
So Vishal brings up a very interesting point, and I think it's within the gambit of what we call social and emotional learning. And I think the first thing is it's very difficult to be kind to others if we are not kind to ourselves. And that's the whole emotion regulation, empathy, in a sense that how can I be kind to someone else when I'm fighting demons within myself? So I think that's and I agree with Vishal in a sense of even. I remember my wife one day sort of said, if you have nothing good to say, don't say it, and you're already being kind. I think after 30 years of marriage, she finally said, she had enough and sort of say, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. And I think, these are things that, when I reflect, it's because I am also not at peace yet. And I think that we got to find within ourselves and then find with the others. And I think that the point. Leslie, I know you have your hands up. I want to give my GWACs a chance to respond, and then I'll come back to you. Amal, I haven't given you the space. Please, I apologize, but go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'd love to say that kindness can move mountains. And in my country, despite our religious background that promotes kindness and leniency to all creatures from all nationalities and social categories, most people tend to diminish its impact. They are blind to see it's a crucial role in human interactions, in making others feel comfortable and receptive. And I'm pleased to see this conference taking place on this particular month, in which most of, or maybe several international days are celebrated. October 2nd, International Day for Nonviolence, United Nations Day, October 24th, but also Mental Health Day is October 10th, and World Students Day, October 15th. And all these days gathering the word students, international, health, and United Nations are brought all at once here. So make sure all youth have to make sure that they make kindness a part of their habits, not only on this particular month, but all along the year. And Gandhi said, strength does not come from physical capacities. It comes from your indomitable will. So I call on you, yes, you, people around the world watching this, no matter where you come, no matter how hard is your situation, no matter how bad is your health, no matter where you are standing now, to give time, to give a chance, to share, to act with kindness as a habit. And it starts by listening to others, by absorbing their pain and their insecurities, and then by being compassionate and supporting. And I call on your indomitable will, as Gandhi wished, that will contribute in improving you, your health, and therefore the world.
A quick question, and then I want the other two to also respond, is how do you inculcate kindness? And I'm going to sort of put myself out on a limb here by saying the education system that we have right now actually does the opposite. It pits us against each other. The other day there was a documentary, and I just thought about my own time as well, when the child says, I had 96%, and the mom said, what is the remaining 4? And he says, I was the top of the class. Then she says, so how many were in the class? And he said 30. Well, she said, there's a much larger world out there. Like, well, where do you stop then? And then you, on the other hand, you say, be kind. It's dissonance, and then I get a lot confused. And then where do I get time to be kind when you are pushing me in this way? I give you that. Give me a 1 minute in response and say, dump the education system we have. That's what, and then I'll and I'll be a lifetime follower of you. So you know where I am going towards. But tell me, how do you do that?
There is a quote that I remember from David Orr saying that the plain fact is that this planet does not need more successful people, but it rather needs more pacemakers, more healers, more resourcers, more storytellers and lovers of every kind. So maybe having kindness as a habit of ours can actually boost us, can actually boost our capacities and brings us to I'm going
to put you up here, yeah, but you're not answering my question. What education system? You have an education system that does it. So tell me how you would change it, because you're the young ones. You're just coming out of that education system. Maybe things have changed, but you know, I remember during my time, I forgot to bring my homework and I was put on top of the table, asked to stand on the top of the table, and I got 6 lashes on my legs. So things have changed, of course, but you have just come out from a system. Has it changed? I don't think so, because my kids have just come out from that. How do you change it? How do you change the education system to be more kind?
It starts by teaching teachers themselves to be kind, to understand their students' needs, to become more empathetic, to listen to them. It's education. It's not only about delivering lessons or classes or teaching them maths and sciences, but the most important thing that education is missing is education as ethics, how to deal with people. And myself, I've been into a 6-year medical studies where I've been taught sciences, biology, physiology, anatomy, etc. But nobody taught us what ethic is, what relationship to patient is. And then everyone, when you're on your department or on a practical exam, they are just asking you to do that. So people are asking you to have skills and things that you are not even being taught. So why not maybe literally teach them this and then ask them to deliver it back? And as I've already heard earlier, it's important to start by ourselves, to be kind to ourselves in order to share this to others. And education is important as a mean of expressing kindness.
Yeah. So it's about flourishing. So I'm assuming that you became a doctor because you were passionate about being a doctor, not because the usual, job security and prestige and so forth, and making money. In fact, these days doctors go in for making money. But I'm assuming from the way I look at you, I think you went in for passion.
May I add something, please?
You became a doctor because you were passionate about being a doctor.
At some point, let's say at my medical studies, when you are absorbed by what other people do, by the way they are mean to people, mean to patients, mean to us as students, and at some point you become part of them because it's normal, because it's the standards. And at some point, I took a whole reflection on myself and on people around me. And then I decided to change because I didn't see it as a healthy habit. And I've been trying to convince people around me to do so, even though they still feel that kindness is not as impactful as I see it. But I'm not quitting. I still believe it's important, and I try to teach it to younger people in my organization as medical student or around the world as a Asian doctor in the future.
Excellent. Lena, so Nikhil, just hang on. Lena, tell me, kindness, education does the opposite. What would you suggest in terms of how we change that, and from a perspective of a GUAC?
Dr. Nanta, you mentioned my background, that I grew up in many different places. So I've been in many different education systems internationally. You can say I've changed at least 17 different schools and school types. And so I've really seen different aspects, and I don't think education is all the same. I've been in environments where competitiveness is the one thing that only matters and you have to reach that 100. I've been in other environments where they teach us that without holding hands and getting to the final point together, you will just not be able to go anywhere. Leslie works with kids 3 to 6 years old. In preschool is when they taught us what empathy means, what teamwork means, what kindness means. And that kindness does not have to be in antagonism to competition. The natural world is competitive. If the gazelle runs too slow, the lion will eat it. So it's not about eliminating every type of competitiveness, but how can we have the collaboration between the needs for students to absorb knowledge and hard facts, balancing that with the fact that in the real world, there's almost not a single job that you won't do in a team. And you will have to learn how to work in a team, because putting your head inside a book and doing physics in a micro lab is not how physics works in the natural world. And so I don't see these as antagonism. I don't see a global education system pushing us all down and pitting us against each other. Some students are just not interested in school and they're interested in other things. And that doesn't mean that they are the kindest, most beautiful souls. Sometimes they're unkind. And so I don't see education and competitiveness as antagonism, but there are ways. There's Montessori programs. There are many different types of proven education systems that show that that teach you how to live in a community and help everyone thrive without your quality of education being any less. And that already exists. We don't have to invent that.
So I disagree with you, and that's the whole reason for this discussion, is that the data shows that in many cases in countries with where suicides and depression that is increasing among the young are coming from environments where the education system is driving this. Places like South Korea, India, and others. So yes, I do agree in a sense. There are, of course, it's not 100% all based on that. And in fact, a Montessori school is in many cases for the privileged. If you're talking about public education systems, and as you say, you are in a sense quite privileged to have gone through so many schools. My kids have done the same thing, because with the international, they've gone through many different schools of international. My son was diagnosed as dyslexia at a much later stage, but he was already termed as slow and dumb by these international schools, because they were going towards getting their students to the top Ivy League schools. So I'm just talking from my own experience, but I also agree with you that not all schools are based, but I'm talking about maybe the majority, and that's where most of the majority of the populations are going to come out from. But about in terms of the natural world with the gazelle and stuff, that's in fact they don't kill out of joy. They eat, that's part of the food chain. And Darwin and the Darwinian theory has always been in a sense, been sort of said it's a competitive. Actually, it was not. When you look into Darwinian theory, our evolution is based on collaboration and working together. That meant our survival rather than looking at that. But saying that, I want to go to Nikhil, and I'll have and that's not fair on my part, because I say mine and you don't have the time to respond. I will let you respond and shoot me down. That's your right. I want to go to Nikhil. Please tell me a little bit about education and kindness.
First of all, again, Dr. Ananta, I'm so glad that you brought this topic up, because I feel like this is a really crucial topic. And I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this. I've been a teacher myself. I taught while in my day job, I used to be in the media and the content creator, writer, director. But on the weekends, I was teaching at a college in Mumbai called Jai Hind College, where I was teaching journalism to young people. And I would just be shocked at so many different things. There are two primary problems I feel the education system, as a teacher, I realize. Of course, teachers don't get paid at all in our country. Where we obviously have, and I suppose this is a global issue as well. But again, I mean, I know about India because I live in India, and I'm a citizen of this country. And I just feel like we don't give the respect to teachers. They are doing the most important job, I feel, outside of parenting. They are conditioning our young people in a certain way. Imagine if you're not giving them enough money, they're coming to school. They're coming to the school or colleges angry because they might have had a bad day. They might have had a bad circumstances that they are living in, and all of that is affecting children. Because when the children ask a question in class, the teacher says shut up, not because the teacher doesn't have an answer, but because she's so frustrated without she or he. They're so frustrated about the fact that they're not getting enough money. And in fact, I've said she because men don't take this profession at all. And the reason for that is there's not enough money, so it naturally goes. I mean, women are just like, okay, men are not doing this, so might as well we do this. And so it's a systemic issue that we need to address. Why are our actors, given like crores and crores of rupees, who are all they're doing is act in a film, while are sports people getting crores and crores of rupees, while of course they're playing for the country, but teachers are shaping young minds and they're not getting paid enough. So that's one big problem. The second problem, and I agree with what Amal said earlier, I think there's a huge issue where we are not listening to young people in our country. We're just not listening to them. We don't give young people the respect of being heard. There's so much every young person has to express, so much that they have to say, but there's nobody to listen. They're not heard at homes, they're not heard in schools, they're not heard in colleges, and they feel incredibly alone because of that. They feel alone because they feel like there is nobody who can understand them, nobody who can understand what they're going through. In our country, there are two big, I feel like there's this phrase called "Badon ki izzat karo," which means that respect your elders, right? But there's no phrase that says "Sabki izzat karo." There's no phrase that says respect everybody. And because it only says respect your elders, we forget or ignore respecting young people. We only respect young people out of competition. If there's a young people who has achieved something, if they have got the highest marks in the exam, if they've got a great JEE score or NEET score, etc., if they have as machines made sure that they are proving their worth to society in numbers, only then do they even ever get the mic. They're only called upon to speak only when they prove themselves. Okay, I have a number to show that proves my worth. But that is not how young people should be, right? Like every young person has a story. Every young person deserves to be heard. Every voice matters. Every story matters. Every youth matters. But we don't do that. And that these two issues where we are not respecting our teachers and we are not respecting our students, obviously the education system is not working and is fundamentally flawed. And empathy needs to be at the center of the system. Empathy will also mean that we are giving respect to both young people and allowing them expression and safe spaces for expression. And empathy will also mean that we understand the frustrations and the problems that teachers go through, because of which they're not able to educate people from a place of humanity, but from a place of just getting them degrees.
So Nikhil, I think you brought up an interesting point on metric in terms of measurement. That's what I picked up, in a sense that when we use a particular metric, and in this case grades, as the way of recognition, then you manage according to the metric that you manage what you can measure, is the famous word that they use. And so maybe the metric of evaluation needs to shift, and it could be a combination. I don't think one should always just have one or the other, maybe a combination. I don't know. I don't have answers to that, because even within the economics discipline, we are so disillusioned with the gross domestic product. But again, what else? So it has its values, but it's not the way it should be used. So I think, but it's a good place to have a discussion. Now, I want to ask a response from Leslie, because I've kept her waiting. And then I want to jump back to the GWACs, and then to Vishal, and then I think we would be coming down to our last 75, because we want to have a Q&A with the audience. Leslie, please.
If I may, I need to respond to what Vishalji you said, because I have a right of response. And Vishal, you're quite wrong when you say that I have limited my horizons to gender equality. In the program I lead and have led for 5 years, as a result of sitting with those rapists in those prisons, as a result of the insights I gleaned on that very dark journey, which actually gave me the most luminous light I needed for the purpose of the rest of my life, as a result of that, I have had a program designed by experts in the world in social and emotional learning, which is what this program is. And gender equality is on the list, of course, but it's one of 25 competencies and skills that we teach. We teach racial equality, we teach religious equality, we teach inclusion, we teach emotional literacy, emotional regulation, we teach collaboration, goal setting, 25 competencies and skills without which a human being cannot grow up as an upright tree. And this is far from about a competition about which country rapes more than which country. You know, the whole world rapes. And it's not just rape, the whole world is at war. The whole world is encouraging climate change by being irresponsible and unkind to the planet itself and to ourselves. But I just want to say one important thing. I think that this is an existential question. We have to be very careful about continuing the what's in it for me mentality in this world. To say that it's about putting ourselves in order first is a nonsense. It's all about putting everything in order for everyone. It's about working collaboratively. And Gandhiji said, if we want real peace in this world, we shall have to start with the children. Listen, no architect would build a house from the ground floor up. They would put the foundations in, and any government that does not put more than 20% of its GDP, let alone a paltry 7%, to education, which actually governs everything in the world. Education is the one goal that can actually have us succeed in all of the other 16 goals. And what Nikhil said is so important. We treat our teachers, particularly in that window of opportunity we have, to co-construct pro-social neuro pathways in the developing brain. 90% of the adult brain is fully developed by the age of 5. That is a fact. Let's get real. Let's start doing what Gandhiji said. Let's educate our children in all of these competencies and skills. And education is the most important gift that we can give to others. It's not about ourselves.
I think I don't think there's a lot of differences because if I know from the social emotional learning.
I lost my video and audio for some time, but you could summarize it, Ananta.
Yeah, so I'm sort of saying, Leslie, and back and forth, is that in the social emotional learning, when you look at the whole the spectrum, in a sense of the mindfulness, which is extremely important as part of that building process, where you talk about emotion regulation and self-regulation. That's the one within oneself. And in fact, in here, a lot of philosophies, and I'm not going to say just Eastern philosophies, just cuts across all different philosophies that comes as also critical. Then you get on the empathy part where you talk about the others, and then the compassion is about actually doing something about it. And it's interesting, within all the social emotional learning frameworks that we just evaluated and produced at the Institute, critical inquiry, which means also the academic part, even CASEL, A stands for academic. What we found is you can be emotionally regulated, you can be empathetic, you can be compassionate and be a suicide bomber. And so this is where the critical inquiry comes in a sense of questioning. You can, because we did that exercise. Because if you look at the way that the recruitment process of extremists, they use all these tools very effectively.
There's no equality taught in that paradigm that you've just described.
That's the whole thing about the critical inquiry. But that's we have another discussion on the frameworks. But I think we are all on the same line in the sense, education and in terms of how you inculcate competencies within the education system, which embraces kindness towards a different goal. And the end goal is human flourishing and societal flourishing, as one could talk about, was what our school systems or education systems is, which is a human capital, which is very individualistic and instrumental, which I think everybody is now questioning. We have, I have till another, I want Q&A for 15 minutes. So, okay, so am I ready to go for Q&A? Okay, so I'm going to go, unless somebody has a burning issue that totally disagrees with what I thought of. I think the point is that we shouldn't be identifying countries. It cuts across the whole world. It cuts across all the societies. Vishal was sort of said, when he introduced, I'm going to pick you up on a little bit. He says, citizen of this country. I would like to get to a point, citizen of this blue dot is, I think most people are going to be pushing towards, because that blue dot is getting smaller and smaller as we become a more larger population, and we are so interconnected, and the virus has shown us in many ways, guys, you are interconnected and you have to work as one. And this is a small planet that you have. So, and it's the only planet we have till we discover warp speed travel. As I say, I'm a Trekkie fan. And I'm sure warp speed travel will happen, but not in my lifetime, but it would happen in maybe my grandchildren's lifetime. Now, Q&A to the audience who have brought some questions that I'm going to throw at. If I see somebody who is particularly well suited, otherwise I'm going to throw it to the 5 of you. So, this is the quintessential economic, the Kuznets U-curve theory. Should countries be developed first, then it will be easier for systemic change. So this is the famous Kuznets curve that they've been talking again and again. So, and even with climate change and stuff, this is holding us back. I'm seeing Leslie saying this, so I'm not going to let her, because she's going to, I know exactly what she's going to say, and is going to sort of debunk the Kuznets curve. I want to have the GWACs go at it first, and if anything else, then I'll allow, not allow, I'm not a person that can do that, and Leslie and Vishal come in at that. But I only have 2 questions, and this was voted as the most popular, so I'm a little bit disappointed. Hint, hint to the guys out there who are part of this webinar that I would have expected more challenging questions. Let me go to the second one. Let's keep this, I think this is just, let me go to the second. What changes can we bring in our education system to cultivate compassion and empathy among learners? I want to go with the GWACs first, because they're just coming out, or they're still in the education system. I'm going to go according to the way I see you guys on my screen. Nikhil, you are up first. Very, succinct. What changes you want in our education system?
Thank you, Dr. Anand. I think from what I was speaking earlier, if I had to kind of put it down in one line, I think we should lead with listening. I think that's a really important thing. We are, again, I think a world that talks first, listens later. We listen to, respond, not to understand. And if we start leading with listening, where we are actually prioritizing the feelings, the emotions, the concerns, the criticisms, the feedback, the questions of young people, and everybody else who's part of the education system, I feel we will have a better education system. It is very important for us to first understand the issues. We need to be self-aware and recognize that there are issues, agree to these issues, and create a forum in safe spaces where people can address these issues, speak up about these issues, and then one by one start addressing them. And all of that, I think empathy and kindness really, really start from listening. It cannot start if we feel I know better what is empathy and I know better what is kindness, but you don't. Actually, my kindness has to be towards you, so I need to listen to you. That's what I would say in a succinct way would be my answer.
So what I'm hearing is self-regulation, emotion regulation, empathy, safe space, education to provide these environment to do this. Lena.
I would say understanding the difference between equity and equality, and truly showing how different people need different tools to succeed and be able to even be given the opportunity to succeed, and understanding that it's not unfair. Um, there are several tools that even as young as 2-year-olds, teachers and educators can give to children to understand why some might need a stool that's a little bit harder, why some might need a little bit more help in a certain math test, why at times their girls and boys maybe perceive and learn things differently, and giving individual students what they need, but teaching them from day one that that is allowed, that that is good, that that is not unfair that so and so got something that you didn't, because you don't need as much support, and basically teaching children how the true difference between equity and equality, and how that can build up to empathy from an extremely young age.
So Lina, I'm just summarizing for these guys to take on board, is that when you say inequality and inequity, very interesting, and many people tend to change this, and actually it's not. From the education, based on what you had brought forward, a lot of push has been for individualized learning in terms of understanding the different types, way that people learn is very different. And so individualized learning is something, I think they call it the holy grail of education, rather than these mass ways that we do at the present. The second is atypical learning within the education community. They talk about atypical learning in terms of understanding how somebody who's a poor reader is a poor reader because of the pedagogical tools that are being used. It's not because they are a poor reader, because they learn through different ways. I always use my son as an example because he was dyslexic. What he could do at the age of 4, he became so bored with jigsaw puzzles that he used to turn them the other way around. So there's no picture, he just sees patterns. He doesn't see pictures. But he couldn't read till he was about 8 or 9, because the way we taught reading was not the way that his way the brains were wired, and they had to be taught very differently. Our education, and surprisingly, one in 7 are dyslexic. And I found out very late that I have some slight form of dyslexia, and my wife immediately was very happy because she said that's where he got it from. So it was my fault, as usual. It's the male's fault. It's the father's fault anyway, when the child has a problem. So I think those are the things that that you were talking about in terms of allowing failure, in terms of people, in terms of learning through failures and finding themselves. These are some of the things that I take away from your intervention. Tell me if I've been completely off base. Amal?
To me, education has to be a dynamic process that must be oriented to capacity building rather than passive learning. And learning is communication, where we have a sender and receiver and a message in between. So, and here, most of our learning process is kind of horizontal or vertical. It's one way message. And therefore, it's important sometimes to give an opportunity to peer education in this world in order to enhance or to improve our education system. I believe that young people can deliver appropriate content, and it's not basically related to age. You can be a great tutor no matter how young you are. And we can see in our societies that young tutors are most correlated with the most, let's say, new pedagogic approaches, and are basically the most attended classes between us. So it's important to focus on bilateral communication and peer education.
I took two words from yours. Doesn't mean it's less than the others, but two really dynamic, multidimensional, and peer-to-peer learning, which is, I think, extremely powerful tool. Sugita Mitra demonstrated that with his hole-in-the-wall experiment in Delhi as well as in rural India, how children were able to learn very quickly without much supervision, and how they taught other children to navigate even in a language that they were not aware of. That's on the net. So I take those three words, those three key elements as critical. Leslie?
I want to answer the question I've seen most in this chat, which is, what can we do? What is the innovation we can use? And I want to start answering that question by asking a question which will explain a lot about what the philosophy of what I'm about to show you is. How can we, I ask of education ministers around the world when I sit with them and persuade them of a system change in education, how can we, who have a duty of care to our youngest citizens, consider it to be compulsory for our kids to learn mathematics, numeracy, literacy, counting, writing, in a world where we have calculators, we have IT, we have computers, and we deem it to be optional for our children to learn how to value another human being? We deem it to be optional for them to learn how to lead healthy relationships. This cannot be optional. So I have, with a group of experts, the late brilliant Sir Ken Robinson, biggest educationalist, I mean, most brilliant in the world, the two co-founders of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, et cetera, et cetera. You'll see all this on the website. But I've created a program and movement, but most importantly, a program, because it's all about action. What can we do is the most important question. Here's what we've designed. A program in 3 levels, each age appropriate, one for 3 to 4-year-olds, one for 4 to 5-year-olds, etc. The program consists of narrative picture books. Here's one, I Love My Planet. Diego's great idea. You can see what these books are actually teaching us. This one is about kindness, called Helping Hands. Head, Heart, and Hands, about critical thinking and emotional literacy, etc. Now, I've just given you a tiny sample, but these books excite empathy, because empathy is the glue that sticks all the competencies and skills together. Now, we also have not just the books, we have the resources. Here is a booklet of resources which are used to teach all of the various, look at this. Look at this beautiful resource which teaches us, when we ask the children of 3 in week 1, what color is this girl? And they will say white. And the teacher is then told in her lesson plan, which is a prescriptive line-by-line set of instructions, now ask the children, if this girl is white, what color is the page at the side of her? They say this girl is black. The teacher has to ask, if this girl is black, what color is her hair then? Because the truth is, no one is black and white. We are all brown, every single one of us. We're just different shades of brown. Now, this is the concrete action we can take. We can implement a program. Here is the lesson plans. 90 lesson plans per year, 30 weeks, 3 times a week, with the same dignity and respect and gravitas accorded to numeracy.
So Leslie, I'm going to cut you short. I think what we can do is sort of put people to the link of Think Equal.
Indeed. There were 6 weeks, totally free. I just have to say one last thing. What is the cost of this? $2 per child. It is at cost because we are a charity. For heaven's sake, let's start doing things that are active and stop talking about this.
All right, great. And I'm not going to say anything about MGIEP because I'm a moderator. I'm not wearing the cap. Come to Leslie's website. There will be links to many other websites. It's a lot of movements, very good movements are doing this stuff. Ambassador? Your few words?
Yeah, so I would like to say that T's that will make the difference. T, T, and T. Teachers, technologists like Ananta and others, and technology. They can be the warriors of kindness. You know, if I'm permitted to use the warrior and kindness in the same sentence, not every warrior is a violent one. However, I still believe, and I firmly believe, once the heart is transformed, you know, you cannot change yourself unless you transform your heart. But once you're able to transform your heart, you become an agent of change for others. Like the alchemist who changed metal into pure gold through his magical pit fire called the Athanor. Like Arjuna, who transformed from a grief-stricken warrior to a world winner. Like a caterpillar that never moved beyond a few inches per hour, but underwent a metamorphosis and could fly. Similarly, with transformation of the human heart, miracles happen. And since I'm also a Star Trekkie like Ananta, and at the beginning of the panel discussion, Ananta mentioned that 1% of the world's population owns 82% of its wealth. Let me quote something from Star Trek, where warp drive was used. In a Star Trek movie, the Starship Enterprise goes back in time from the 23rd to the 21st century to save mankind from robotic beings. Well, in the 21st century, the first ever rocket to break the speed of light barrier could carry only 3 people in that movie. The reason being that titanium needed for the rocket was very expensive. However, when 21st century scientists see the Starship Enterprise and come to know of its 20 decks all made of titanium, they are amazed. And the first question they ask, how much did it cost? Well, but the Starship's captain Jean-Luc Picard answers that 23rd century economics are very different from the 21st century ones. For money no longer inspires mankind. The acquisition of knowledge is now the driving force. But then Star Trek is mere science fiction. But having said that, I would agree that because money inspires a lot of people and money is what is driving our society, I agree with Nikhil Taneja's one point that we need to pay our teachers and professors, specifically in countries which have less per capita income. We need to pay our teachers and professors much better. But I disagree with Nikhil's view that teachers are not respected. I feel teachers and professors are respected all over the world in any culture, whether it's the Arabic culture, whether it's Indian culture, whether Chinese culture or Western culture. I feel teachers and professors receive the most amount of respect. They may not get the money, the salaries may not be high, but the respect for teachers in the hearts of students and parents is the highest. So I feel teachers, technology, and technologists can be the new warriors in the kindness movement. Ananta.
Okay, I was going to ask what the third T is. So it's basically teachers, technology, and technologists.
That's right.
Interesting.
People who use technology, the people who devise the algorithms for artificial intelligence, the people who ensure that these artificial algorithms finding about behavioral patterns of students are not exploited by any multinational companies, but there is a right to privacy even as technology invades more and more of our lives, including how to teach students. So technologists having an ethical mind frame are very important because they are the ones who control the technology.
Great. Thank you very much. I want to finish with the last poll. This is a challenge which I pulled from Leslie's notion of accountability and responsibility and deliverables that will make this day a lot different in terms of action, do something. My question is, can the youth, and this is a challenge to the GWAC, can the youth reach 657 billion acts of kindness over the next 1 year, starting from the end of this month till November of 2021, when the call for a UN Day is presented to the UNESCO General Conference? That means each youth, the 1.8 billion youth, will do 1 act of kindness a day for the 364 days. Yes or no? Okay. this is not even close. This is 90% said, yes, we can. All right. And I don't think these are the old geezers who are trying to trick you guys into doing something. Let me do something simpler. MGIP is going to start a counter on the 1st of November. Each time you come in, fill a short form, and it gets up as one act of kindness. And we're going to keep that counter till next November. And as I think some of the panelists who had said, just to go and, Vishal had talked, go to just give a hug to your parents, or say, I'm not going to say anything nasty towards you today, or anything, not say, sort of saying, I didn't say a nasty word today is an act of kindness. Add it up, because the world needs positive news, because every morning or every day when you pick up the main media outlets, it's all so depressing. And there's a psychological theory of the broken windows theory that if you become depressed, it just becomes more depressive, and it just perpetuates the situation. Let's change it, and let's celebrate all the acts of kindness, because there are. We just don't celebrate it, and we don't make a big deal out of it. Because when you go to CNN and say somebody did so good, that's not newsworthy. There's no blood, there's no gore, there's no violence. It's not sensational. We should do this. And so I've told my staff here, until Abel throws me out of being the CEO, on November 1st, we're going to have a counter, and all the youth out there, please, any act of kindness. It doesn't have to be, if we start saying, make a distinction, it's a big one versus a small, we get into the competitive notion. No, everyone is of value. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out, having this discussion. I hope it was useful. I hope you had fun. I'm sure many of you would have wanted more time to talk, but we had 1.5, we had 5 of you. Maybe tell us a little bit about your feedback about this panel. And even if you say the moderator really sucked, that's fine, because I want to learn as well how I sucked at doing this job and how to improve it. Because irrespective, even if I'm 62, neurosciences says my neuroplasticity is still there. It's not as good, it's not as elastic as when to the age of 24, but I can still learn and I can still rewire. And with that hope, I continue learning, and I'm sure all of us do. Thank you very much. I think we take on to the next on the declaration and some, I think, songs and dance and the usual good stuff, rather than this boring 1.5 hours of just chatting. Bye.
Anantha?
Somebody's talking to me.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Thank you. Thank you to all our panelists for that very interactive panel on how kindness in policies can be transformative in achieving the SDGs. Dear friends, now we come to the heart and soul of the Second World Youth Conference on Kindness. The historic adoption of the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness that calls for a new United Nations International Day of Kindness. For this, I will invite Mr. Augusto Baron Cruz from Honduras. Augusto is a young Honduran leader and a public health activist for whom health and its ramifications are his core passions. Currently, he's a medical intern at the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Honduras. For the past few months, Augusto has led a dynamic team of 10 youth from 8 countries, gathering comments from hundreds of youth worldwide on the draft declaration that they are presenting to you today for a historic adoption.
Thank you so much, Archana. Boy, that was certainly a very amazing panel, huh? I think we all got a little bit of insight to take away from us for the rest of our lives. And well, I am now joined by Mr. Jamin Parikh, who is a diplomatic researcher of the European Institute of Policy Research and Human Rights of the European Union.
Hi.
And Ms. Shrishti Parikh, who is an enthusiast, impact enthusiast, with a Bachelor of Economics, and both.
Hello.
And both are from India, and both are members of our amazing GIEC policy team behind the declaration that we are adopting today. And we will be soon joined by all of you as panelists as well to adopt the declaration, so be ready for it. So let us begin.
See good and bad happening everywhere. Sometimes the bad overwhelms. You might ask yourself, why can't it be better for everyone? And perhaps at night, you've even closed your eyes and dreamt of a better world. You wake, you dream again. You wake, and it goes on until you realize it's time to bring the dream to reality. UNESCO MGIEP and the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness brought together talented young individuals from all across the world who have risen to show the youth that the time to dream has now passed. It's time to act. And the youth has answered the call, pouring countless suggestions and arguments from every corner of the globe, from Ecuador to Indonesia, giving life to the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness for the Sustainable Development Goals. Today we celebrate that dream. Today we honor the voice of the world's youth, and we take the first step in the name of our environment, our societies, our family, ourselves, and all those who've yet to come to push towards a better future. One of hope, one of peace, of kindness, of happiness. Because ultimately, what is humanity but a search of happiness? And what better way to find it by coming together under the banner of kindness?
Wow, certainly beautiful. That actually reminds me of a quote by Ron Bennett, who said, "Attitude is a choice. Optimism is a choice. Giving is a choice. Respect is a choice. And whatever choice you make, makes you. So choose wisely. And today, we've all made the choice to partake in this gathering that celebrates kindness as a pillar of humanity and raise our voices, calling together for a better and kinder world for us and all those who will come after us. We realize then that, well, kindness is what makes us. So don't you think so, Shrishti?
Sure thing, Augusto. And, I really have to say that I am in awe to see kindness being empowered by the voices of youth across the world, which has helped us shape the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness for the Sustainable Development Goals into more than just a mere paper with words. In fact, now it is a testament for the love we all hold. Just as we saw in the video, a love for our environment, for our families, for our societies, for ourselves, and all those who've yet to come. Jamin, I'm sure that you would agree.
Well, absolutely, Srishti. I also want to add one more thing, that the youth which are here with us today and whose support we really appreciate and enjoy moves me. You know, Srishti, I'm really getting excited by the thought that what does this really mean for us? What does this mean for our future in the larger context? Augusto knows this thing well, that at the beginning, this journey was not a cakewalk. It was a bit difficult task, but slowly and steadily, as we started gathering the support of the youth for a kindness movement, I can boldly and firmly say that yes, we are a step closer in achieving a kind society. Augusto, Srishti. So, as I've always said, that future is a reflection of our present. So our future depends on our present as such. And I'm really happy, I'm really glad that at present, we are doing the right thing. we are doing the right thing, and we are involved in reshaping our future. So Srishti, Augusto, should we tell the world what the youth has to say? Shall we read out the declaration which youth of the world has prepared?
Yes.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
it is our pleasure to present to you
the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness for the Sustainable Development Goals. We, the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness, with youth across the world and the participants of the Second World Youth Conference on Kindness, held virtually on the 24th and 25th of October 2020, commit ourselves to enhance youth presence at all levels of institutions and to develop youth-specific focus groups.
harness the power of youth to diminish the spread of misinformation, hate speech, and incitement to discrimination, hostility, xenophobia, and violence in print and digital media, with particular reference to social media.
Engage with the acts of kindness which can help us elevate the suffering of people immediately and help eradicate the discrimination and all forms of abuse and violence in the long run. In particular, the structural and institutional discrimination, along with the systemic operations based on race, ethnicity, religion, creed, belief, nationality, caste, class, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or a combination of these characteristics. And among other threats to the dignity and safety of the marginalized people, gender-based violence, hate crimes, including but not limited to violence against LGBTQ plus people, excessive use of force by the law enforcement, and the religious persecution.
Advocate for the promotion of solidarity towards migrants and refugees through programs of psychosocial support, workforce inclusion, and access to basic resources for a dignified life within their host countries.
Spread awareness among all the stakeholders of the global community about the importance and urgency of meeting commitments made in the Paris Agreement to mitigate the effects of climate change.
Promote kindness towards all forms of life and sustainable and equitable living, drawing on diverse concepts and practices, including indigenous ecological wisdom.
Urge all concerned stakeholders, in particular ministries of education, to mainstream social and emotional learning in education systems in order to foster competencies such as compassion and kindness.
Celebrate all the individuals, communities, organizations, and institutions that have contributed to advancing well-being for all.
Call upon governments of UNESCO member states and all the responsible actors in the global community to join our journey to declare an International Day of Kindness, to give us all an established day to reflect and celebrate the power and importance of kindness, which underlies both our common humanity and our prospects towards a sustainable future for all.
We are now inviting you all to join us as panelists for the adoption.
Please make sure that you turn your microphone on.
Please make sure that your camera is also on.
Tell us, youth of the world, do you adopt this declaration?
Join the kindness family.
Rise, clap.
Let yourself be seen and heard.
Bang your mics, spam the chat.
Clap, raise your hand, show us your support, make some noise.
Look at your controls, and you should be seeing a little button to turn your microphone on.
For all those watching us on stream, please break the chat.
This is the time to show your commitments towards kindness and sustainability. Show us.
Don't be shy, make some noise as soon as you're upgraded.
Change does not happen quietly. Come on, be louder.
We want your support today. If not now, then when?
Yeah, come on. I mean, some of you have already been updated. We want you to be loud today. Yeah.
Maintain those decibels. Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, come on, join.
Yeah, do it. Come on.
Come on, cheer for sustainability.
Don't shy, join us. Do not hesitate.
You can
Dance
enable
if
your
you
video
want.
and your microphone.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes.
We want your support. Be ready. Be ready. Just dance. Make some noise.
We are ready to support. Yes, we can.
Ready for support.
We are with you. We are with you.
Come on.
So
Here's the
glad to see
kindness
all
and
the
compassion
support
to us.
pouring in.
We are able to see your energy. We want more.
Yes.
Come on, let's cheer on. Come on. Let's get on it.
Let's celebrate this day with loud echoes.
Come on, show us your energy more.
Join me. Come on.
Come on, everyone.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
It's possible
can.
and we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
We can.
We together have to show what kindness matters.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Count 1, 2, 3.
Yes, we can.
Yes,
We can and we will.
we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
3.
Yes, we can.
We can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Chat your day.
भाई देख लो देख लो
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Let the world know that you want this kind dream to be a reality for a future. We all thank you very much for your support.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Augusto, thank you. Tumpang from
you.
Nagaland.
Thank you all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're overwhelmed by all your support.
I'm very glad to part of this World Youth Conference. I'm very glad to part of this World Youth Conference.
Thank you so very much, Sachin.
Thank you to all. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Augusto.
Shukriya, thank you.
Thank you
very much,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Arigatou gozaimasu, minasan.
Kevin.
Thanks for doing this part.
Thank you so much.
Proud to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For our Hispanic attendees, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos en este día.
Ayunyeshi nimeunmute video. It's just a conference.
Thank you so very much. This was certainly a day we will all remember, and you have all been part of it. Soon enough, you will be able to look back and say, I was there in the day history was made. Just as you see your name being part of this notable document, being presented during the UNESCO General Assembly next year. The declaration has been formally adopted now by all of you, and you're still on the process. So don't lose the happiness that we have built up so far. Keep on doing and cheering for this declaration. I mean, hooray! But does that mean that the work we have done now has stopped? Well, I don't think so. It is not yet done. Do you think so, Shrishti?
No, Augusto, the work is not done. Like it was previously mentioned, this is just the beginning. And from this point onwards, the future of this declaration rests on the hands of all of us. It will be the actions we take as a worldwide youth collective that define how many aspects can be nurtured within this perspective we offer.
Yeah, so again, how can we do that?
Well, first of all, many took steps already to shape the contents of the document. But as you might have noticed, no personal identifiers were asked for it. Yet, we want you, everyone else who wants to join the kindness movement, to be engraved in stone for history. Therefore, after this conference, UNESCO MGIEP will open a platform on their website for all the world to leave their signature and support.
Yeah, that's right. And you can sign it yourself. You can have your friends and family sign it. And you can even ask your local and national organizations to sign it, especially your Minister of Education and representatives to the UNESCO Executive Board. Everyone you know and you don't know can be invited. The bigger quantity and diversity we have in the signatures, the more and more weight will our declaration hold, which will come to a critical importance when the time to present the resolution for the International Day of Kindness comes at the UNESCO General Assembly next year. I'm sure we'll be hearing more on that from Dr. Rajput, who's the representative of India to the UNESCO Executive Board, the Ambassador of India to the UNESCO, Mr. Vishal V. Sharma, and the Honorable Dr. Dipu Mani, the Minister of Education of Bangladesh. We want to show UNESCO that the world cares and wants it to be heard. So this future looks very promising, right, Jamie?
I totally agree, Augusto. In fact, this is the time that we all come together as a single unit working towards kindness. This is the time that let us scrub away any shyness or any hesitation which we might have. This is the time that we knock the doors of the world and say that, yes, we need the support to make this declaration an ultimate success. Also, Augusto, Srishti, I would go up to an extent saying that 20 years or 30 years from now, when future will judge its history, they will realize that yes, someone was there. The Global Youth Alliance for Kindness was there, taking a lead in promoting kindness, taking a lead in inculcating Mahatma Gandhi's values of kindness and humanity for all. Also, if you are interested in partaking future endeavors and getting news related to our movement, then certainly you can have a look and subscribe to UNESCO MGIEP's newsletters. And if you want to take a more active role, then we at the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness always keep our arms wide open for everyone and for anyone who wants to make a positive impact in this society. You can have a look at our website, www.gyak.org. Do not forget to subscribe there. Other ways to connect through us is our social media handles. So you just need to type UNESCO MGIEP or the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness on your Twitter, on your Instagram, and on your Facebook. Engagement opportunities are bound to arise soon. And as soon as they arise, we are going to put up there. So yeah, we will be there in touch.
Although, just by being here, believe me, you are already part of this amazing international family. I'm looking on the chat that some people are asking about the declaration. You can consult the whole text of the declaration at the UNESCO MGIEP's website at any given point, starting from now. We, the GIAC policy team, Aditya, Deepshika, Frederick, Jaimin, Kenneth, Shaheen, Shriya, Shrishti, Tanja, Yudhi, Ramin, Tandar, and I, we sincerely thank you for all your support and taking time to strengthen the world with kindness. by letting us be the messengers of your voice, one that is already so loud that it will have to be heard. We will build together a better future. But in this instant, please also continue to enjoy your presence as we move on to the last bits of this inspiring conference. So I bid you all farewell. Thank you again, leaving you again in the hands of the amazing Archana.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a declaration through the voices, video, clapping, shouting, singing, dancing, and all the energy of the thousands of youth attending today the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness, calling on governments to create a new United Nations International Day of Kindness is officially adopted. We ask the youth to work with Augusto and the team of the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness to now work with governments to create the new UN Day. We will now hear from the official representatives of the Government of India and Bangladesh on how they will work with the youth to make the new UN Day a reality in 2021. We will first hear from Ambassador Vishal V. Sharma, the newly appointed Permanent Delegate of India to UNESCO. He's a prolific writer and a painter and author with a keen interest in science and technology. The 5 Ps, close to Ambassador Sharma's heart, are physics, philosophy, painting, politics, and above them, all humble prayers. Ambassador, we appreciated your comments on the panel, and we look forward to your remarks on the newly adopted Global Youth Declaration on Kindness.
Thank you. I feel this is a very good step in the right direction, and I'm very honored to share this platform with the Honorable Minister of Education for our dear friendly nation of Bangladesh. I'm also very happy and honored to have been called to this panel by the team at MGIEP, headed by Ananta and his able associate, Mr. Abel Kane, and their team. And I'm so happy to have interacted with the youth from all over the world. You know, there are people from Africa, from the Far East, from Latin America, and from every part of the world who have participated in this discussion. As we move ahead, we embark on this journey to have this Day of Kindness declared and enshrined as one of the most important days in the UN calendar. You know, a thought arose in my heart. What is it that inspires an individual? And what is it that inspires mankind? We have seen that if it is blood that feeds the body of man, surely it must be inspiration that stimulates his soul. We know that as per Ricardo's labor theory, it was labor that was the focal point of all economic activity, and money or capital was but a frozen part, a result of past labor. This Ricardian postulation later became the central thesis of Karl Marx's labor theory. However, we know that Marxist movements, the leftist movement that thought of nationalization of wealth, did not work. Then arose the success of the neoliberal systems that Ananta spoke of. But if 1% of this world's wealth is, if 82% of this world's wealth is restricted to only 1% of the population, the question arises, how would we end this competition, and how would kindness emerge as a leading attribute? If the craze is after earning money, then how will kindness win it over? Will kindness emerge victorious, or will it be lost in the cacophony of competition? You know, there is a poem that says, money has enslaved mankind, making it cringe and crawl before it. For mankind asks with one voice, how much is he worth? Has he no money? Then let him eat dirt and go cold. Perhaps this is a cruel depiction of man's greed for money, but the message that the poet is trying to convey is loud and clear. Indeed, it is money and economics that has become the driving force for the majority of our contemporaries. But does mankind get inspired to earn money? Or does mankind want to earn money to be able to possess or attempt that which inspires it? Surely the inspiration of our society must be progress, Surely the inspiration of our society must be advancement and the evolution of our species. And if that is to happen, then how can we evolve as a collective? How can we evolve as a species if we don't have kindness towards in our heart? This kindness which is latent, you just take a child from any culture, you take a child from any country, you see the kindness is embedded in the way the human brain is wired. However, as we grow, how come this coefficient of kindness reduces? This is a matter that institutions like MGIEP are working. They're working on something very interesting called the Gandhi neurons. Can kindness be brought out as part of its digital pedagogy? And if so, then yes, the United Nations has to recognize it. Yes, the time has come for the world, for the global platform to recognize kindness as an essential attribute in the progress and the development of mankind. That is not only economically beneficial for everybody, but it is also beneficial because it increases the coefficient of happiness in everyone's heart. What use is there of your wealth if you're not happy? What use is there of your power if you're not satisfied in your heart? Therefore, the time has come that kindness will be recognized as one of the most important attributes of our times. And because the youth of this world are saying so, let the youth become our teachers. Today, I'm seeing it's a youthful platform. I'm learning from this youth. Let the youth become our teachers, I say. Let the youth become our teachers, because the youth are the inheritors of this world. As we have grown, we were also youth before, but as we have grown, with time we have seen that the aspirations we had about this world somehow, with the passage of age and the graying of our hair, it comes down. But with the energy that is available with the youth, I have learned something today. And I have learned that what I believed in my youth, that yes, kindness, compassion can change the world. I'm so happy that the youth who have become my teachers today, they are showing the path, and it's high time. It's high time that the United Nations will be made cognizant of this fact, and we will appeal to the United Nations. You have the support of India. India is the land of Gandhi. India is the land of the Buddha. But I don't restrict Gandhi and Buddha only to India. Gandhi and Buddha belong to humanity at whole. And yes, this land has given birth to them. This is the land where Buddha taught compassion, and Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent movement was full of kindness. And because of this, I feel it is our moral responsibility to support the youth in their quest to have the United Nations declare an International Day of Kindness, and the UNESCO is the platform upon which we will take your voice and we will support you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Sharma. India was the leading light for the creation of the International Day of Nonviolence to celebrate the life and ideals of Mahatma Gandhi, as well as the International Day of Yoga. As a member of the UNESCO Executive Board, we are delighted to hear that the Government of India will support the new UN International Day of Kindness from you. We now turn to our esteemed chief guest and fellow member of the UNESCO Executive Board, the Honorable Dr. Ms. Tipu Moni, Minister of Education of Bangladesh. The Honorable Minister Moni is currently serving as the Minister of Education of Bangladesh since January 2019. She also served as the Foreign Minister of Bangladesh from 2009 to 2013. She studied for her MBBS at Dhaka Medical College and Hospital, and the LBB at the Bangladesh National University. She later earned a Masters of Public Health from the Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health, and also a Masters of Laws from the University of London. Honorable Minister Moni is a lawyer of Bangladesh Supreme Court. Madam Minister, we invite you to deliver the chief guest remarks on the Global Youth Declaration of Kindness.
Thank you. Dear delegates and participants, especially my younger global friends, it is my pleasure to be sharing this auspicious day with you here at the Second World Youth Conference on Kindness. Before I proceed, allow me to congratulate the UNESCO Mahatma Gandhi Institute of Education for Peace and Sustainable Development, the first Category 1 institute of the UNESCO in the Asia Pacific in pioneering new ways of rethinking education through social and emotional education to build peaceful and sustainable societies. I commend Team UNESCO MGIEP, especially for their focus on empowering young global citizens to be transformative champions of change. It is an auspicious day, a commemoration of 75 years of the United Nations. I'm honored and very grateful for the invitation, and it's a pleasure to be here. My dear young global delegates and participants, our beautiful world is at a crossroads, a juncture where we must pause, reflect, and then collectively act. Humanity is facing a new set of challenges ranging from the pandemic, climate change, unprecedented migration, to mental health problems and violent conflicts. Global peacefulness has declined considerably. It is estimated that more than 40% of people are under the age of 25. However, their civic and political participation is merely average. In Bangladesh itself, the median age is 25.7 years. To compound the problems, our education systems are not adapting quickly enough to counter and even prevent these challenging issues. This is why we need powerful forces predicated on empathy, compassion, kindness, and non-violence. Like Gandhi said, the simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. We can all agree that Gandhi is remembered for his strict adherence to nonviolence that transcended his resistance against oppressive systems and permeated everything he did in his illustrious life. The global pandemic has taught us more than ever that adapting to uncertainty and learning innovatively is a must for restructuring our education systems to ensure that they facilitate empathetic, kind, compassionate learning. Education must therefore facilitate and challenge the young to search deep within themselves and build the inner strength that enables them to not just sympathize or relate with the suffering of others, but to act to lessen that suffering on the fundamental basis that, like themselves, they too are sentient beings deserving of dignity, respect, and happiness. We need to educate young people on the importance of critical inquiry and experimentation to enable them to defy and transcend boundaries such as class and race. We need them to be educated and creative to question and transform entrenched structural injustices and inequities. This needs to be an education that builds their resilience and determination to fight global injustices, even when their health or lives are at stake. This brings me to my final point, a reiteration of things that I have said or hinted at already. We are in dire need of many more Sheikh Mujibur Rahmans, Nelson Mandelas, Martin Luther Kings, and indeed many more Gandhis. We need young people who are concerned about and disturbed by injustices and inequities anywhere in the world, and who are most importantly ready to roll up their sleeves, form into a collective, a movement, and non-violently resist. Resist and never stop such non-violent resistance until the world is equal, peaceful, and sustainable, where every being is treated equally with dignity and respect, and where suffering is non-existent. In conclusion, we need to bring our youth back into the present. Young people are not leaders of tomorrow, nor of later today. The youth are the leaders of now. We need to give our youth their deserved agency, trust in them, educate them to be like or better than those role models, empathetic, compassionate, and nonviolent, and create a supportive ecosystem to enable them to transform their societies. There is therefore no more apt a gathering than one where we commemorate 75 years of the United Nations and collectively reaffirm a pledge through this gathering of concerned, kind, and compassionate youth who are determined to better our common humanity. As I challenge the youth, I also challenge the sunset generation, the leaders from myself to teachers, to create spaces for authentic engagement and involvement of youth, and if required, step aside and let them spearhead societal transformation. I will follow this movement on kindness closely, and I promise the support of my office and my government to see that these seedlings germinate and flourish into an awe-inspiring forest that will provide shade for many generations to come. On the occasion of commemorating 75 years of the United Nations, I pledge my government's support to the Global Youth Declaration on Kindness, calling on governments to create a new United Nations International Day of Kindness. We must remain hopeful and be steadfast in our belief that no challenge is insurmountable. We must all work together tirelessly to inspire and encourage those who shall shape our future, so that you, our youth, can be the change that you wish to see in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister Deepamoni. Thank you so much for your tireless efforts towards imparting to the youth skills that will realize their potential, empower them, and have kindness at the core of their educational journey, enabling them to become responsible global citizens. We thank you for your support for the Global Youth Declaration and the UN International Day of Kindness. Dear youth, we have a declaration that calls for a UN International Day of Kindness. This is historic. The next steps in the journey are the UNESCO Executive Board in April 2021, significantly expanding the Kindness Matters Global Campaign and Compassionate Integrity Training to thousands of more global youth, the third World Youth Conference on Kindness in August 2021, all leading to the UNESCO General Conference in November 2021, where the new UN Day will come into force. On behalf of Ananta Durayappa, Inaugural Director of UNESCO MGIEP, we would like to very sincerely thank all the youth who contributed to the drafting of the declaration, our keynote speakers and our panelists, the Global Youth Alliance for Kindness, especially Nurul, Imad, and Augusto, Dr. Michael Carlin, and the team at Life University with Lasting Purpose, all our promotion partners too, and there are too many on that list, and thank each one of you. Creating a tradition of ending all the MGIP youth events with a rollicking kindness concert, we now ask Lorraine Zander, CEO, founder of Phase Media Canada, an official media partner for the second Kindness Conference, to introduce the really cool and great lineup for a musical acts coming up for you. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Lorraine Zander and I'm the founder of Phase Media and the editor-in-chief of Phase Magazine based out of beautiful Toronto, Canada. We are the global media partner for UNESCO MGIEP and this World Youth Conference on Kindness. For over 20 years, we have worked with young change makers like you that have created positive change in their communities and around the world. Today, you'll see some amazing artists that are impacting their communities through art, activism, and kindness. We hope you love them as much as we do.
Hi everyone, I'm Ralph Schmitz and I'm the conductor of the Global Youth Choir, and it is indeed an incredible privilege for us to be performing to you today all the way from our very own virtual studio right here in rural Limpopo, South Africa. And what a special day where we celebrate kindness. And we've been shown such kindness from the very beginning. When we started, we relied on donations, which have eventually enabled us to create employment for young people within the arts. And the song we're going to sing for you today couldn't be more perfect, because it's a song that expresses the hopes and dreams of the African continent. Ladies and gentlemen, My African Dream.
Sometimes alone in the evening, I look outside my window at the shattering night. I hear the sound of distant crying, the darkness multiplying, the weary hearts unite. All I feel is my heart beating like a drum, beating with confusion. And all I hear is a voice telling me to go, but I could never run. Oh, whatever the Africa, oh, in my African dream, there's a new tomorrow. My African dream, it's a dream that you can follow. Nowhere can I begin to fall. I listen for your voice. I listen for your heart. Along my dream is just a dream, another false illusion, a shadow in the night. All I want is for your heart, be just as right, to silence the confusion, and the pain and the illusion will disappear again, and we will never run. Oh, whatever the Africa, oh, in my African dream, there's a new tomorrow. My African dream, it's a dream that you can follow. Oh, in my African dream, there's a new tomorrow. My African dream, it's a dream that you can follow.
Hi everyone, we are City Action! We are a 2 times world champion street dance group from Argentina. We know each other for more than 10 years and we love dancing. If you want to see more of our videos, check out YouTube and Instagram as CB Action Crew. One of our key values that helps CV Action stay united throughout the years is kindness. Being kind not only to each other but with the rest of the people help us to achieve all of our goals. It's a real great honor to be participating in this kindness concert, and we hope you enjoy our performance. Thank you.
Wait a minute, 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 wait a minute. Besándome otra vez, suavemente. Bésame suave, bésame otra vez. Suave, bésame, bésame otra vez. Vamos allá, pequeña. Suave, bésame otra vez. Suave, yo quiero sentir tus labios suaves. Sentir tus labios. امید خانه را رنگین کمانی سازیم، عشق را درون خود یابه، نوید تازه را از سر جهانی سازیم، کینه را از قلب خود رانه، مهربان باشیم با هم، از دل بخندیم هر دم، شادمان باشیم با هم، زندگی کنیم در هم. It's time, let's do this, it's our time, let's do this, it's time to shine your light. Let's do this, it's time to shine your light. Whoa, It is time.
Hi everyone, it's NIC here, or as some refer to me as, who? I would like to say thank you for having me involved in this year's kindness concert, where my topic is the environment. This is something I have become increasingly aware of, especially if you're someone like me who can't go 5 minutes without a costume change. Together with my stylist Sanjay and my designer George from the House of De Silva, we have created our entire wardrobes solely from recycled and sustainable materials. I'm also secretly hoping that this project will allow me to become best friends with David Attenborough. Fingers crossed. On a serious note, there are many issues that seem terrifying, like the Amazon forest, which is currently at a 5% tipping point before the ecosystem is disrupted beyond repair. However, there are some incredible organizations working tirelessly to prevent this from happening. It may seem impossible, but together we can make a change. So support, get involved, and save the planet.
Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about the topic of kindness. This is something that I feel like we don't talk enough about, and especially with this year, with everything that's going on with the pandemic, I feel like kindness is especially needed. And yeah, so girls, what does kindness mean to you guys? Leah?
Kindness to me means treating people how you want to be treated.
Just going off of that, I'd say just keeping into thought that we never really know what other people are going through in their own walks of life. So keeping that in mind and knowing that a smile and a compliment can go a long way.
And also just finishing off, kindness to me also means just being able to spread that bit of positivity and happiness and sharing that with others. Because like I was thinking about everyone's going through and just making the world a better place. And yeah.
And at the end of the day, kindness is always remembered the most. So no matter who you've interacted with and what situation you've been in, at the end of the day, kindness is always remembered.
Look how she doing that thing. Boom, bam, feeling the drum. Boom, bam, raising the thumb. Boom, bam, shake it like that, shake it boom. Look how she doing that thing. Boom, bam, feeling the drum. Boom, bam, raising the thumb. Boom, bam, shake it like that, shake it boom.
¿Y el anillo pa' cuándo? Ahí. Yo mami, arriba, pa' abajo. Arriba, pa' abajo. Arriba, pa' abajo.
And remember, be kind.
Our country is a playground for corruption, iniquity, and therefore violence. When our performance is over, here in Colombia, people will still be killed. Kindness is about taking action, stepping out of your comfort zone. Our action is to create and educate in art because we deeply believe in its power to transform our people. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We must stop believing that memory is a privilege and start fighting for it as a right. It's time for those who have the power and the voice to speak in the name of the forgotten. Don't sit behind a desk waiting for someone to do something for. Small deeds are change.
Tocamos los tambores porque suena más fuerte que las balas. Y así maquillamos la tristeza de alegría.